The guest book sat on a little walnut table outside the ceremony room, open to a clean, cream-colored page. Somebody had placed a silver pen across it at an angle, along with a bud vase holding 3 white roses that looked more expensive than my first car. I had been at the inn since Thursday. I had repaired Leah's hem, stuffed welcome bags, hunted down missing ribbon, and driven 40 minutes for the unscented candles Diane suddenly remembered she needed. Now it was Saturday afternoon, and I was wearing the blue dress I had spent 3 weeks choosing. Ian stood near the doorway in his tuxedo, checking the room over my shoulder. "Where do I sign?" I asked. He glanced at the book. "That's for people we invited." I waited for his smile. It didn't come. A couple I didn't recognize stepped around me. The woman signed with a flourish while her husband rested one hand at her waist. Ian pulled me half a step away from the table. "Mom, please don't do this right now." "Do what?" His eyes flicked toward the arriving guests. "You know what?" I didn't. Or maybe I knew all at once and couldn't make the knowledge fit inside my body. I looked through the open doors at the rows of chairs, 48 of them, each tied with ribbon I had trimmed myself. "Ian," I said, "where am I sitting?" He exhaled, and in that breath I heard how long he had been hoping I would never ask. 8 weeks earlier, my son had called while I was peeling potatoes. I answered with the phone pressed between my cheek and shoulder. "If you're canceling Sunday, tell me before I put these in water." "I'm not canceling. You're calling on a Thursday. That's usually the opening ceremony. I can call my mother without a reason." "You can. You just don't." He laughed, which was what Ian did when I told the truth in a tone polite enough that he could pretend it was a joke. "I need your help with something," he said. "Ah, nature is healing. Leah's welcome bags." I set the peeler down. "For the wedding guests?" "No, Mom, for random pedestrians. Your father would have loved you becoming sarcastic. He thought it was the only thing I ever taught you." That softened him. Mentioning Dennis could go either way with Ian. Sometimes it made him quiet. Sometimes it made him tell a story I'd forgotten, usually involving Dennis breaking something and blaming the laws of physics. That evening, Ian just said, "We're behind." The wedding was going to be at Bellwether Inn, a converted farmhouse almost 2 hours from my house. Leah had described it as intimate. Diane, her mother, had described it as curated. I had looked up curated after the engagement dinner to make sure it still meant what I thought it meant. "What goes in the bags?" I asked. "Water, snacks, maps, pain reliever, little local honey jars." Leah ordered everything. "It's being shipped to you." "To me? You have the dining room table. So do you. Ours is smaller. Their table seated 8. Mine seated 6 if everyone liked each other." "How many bags?" 50. "I thought you were having 48 guests. Some people share rooms, some don't. It's complicated." Ian had been saying that a lot since he got engaged. Flowers were complicated. Seating was complicated. His bachelor dinner was complicated because one friend wasn't speaking to another friend after a business disagreement nobody would explain to me. Every complication seemed to end with Ian asking someone else to absorb it. "All right," I said. "Have the boxes sent here. You're the best. There are sentences mothers should learn to inspect more carefully." The boxes arrived the following Monday, 6 of them stacked against my front door by a delivery driver who looked at the steps and decided I had the shoulders of a stevedore. The honey jars were wrapped individually. The maps had to be folded. The paper bags came flat, and the handles had to be threaded through holes so small I briefly wondered if Leah's wedding theme was punishment. I worked on them in the evenings while watching game shows. By Wednesday, my dining room smelled like brown paper and lavender hand lotion. Ian stopped by after work to bring the printed schedules. He came in wearing the gray suit I liked, his tie loosened and his hair pushed back as if he'd been running his hands through it. At 39, he still looked enough like Dennis from certain angles to catch me off guard. "Wow," he said when he saw the rows of bags. "You did all these? I'm starting a hotel." He picked one up and looked inside. The honey should face forward. I stared at him. "That came from Leah," he said quickly. "Not me. Then Leah is welcome to come over and turn the honey." He grinned and kissed my temple. "Looks great." I turned the honey after he left. That was the thing about Leah. She was not unkind in the simple, useful way people later wanted her to be. She remembered my birthday. She sent flowers on the anniversary of Dennis's death. When we ate together, she asked questions and listened to the answers instead of waiting for her turn to speak. But she had a way of making preferences sound like facts of nature. Honey faced forward. Ribbon should be bone, not ivory. The wedding needed a consistent visual language. I had been married in the church basement with carnations from the grocery store. Our visual language had been beige. Ian spread the printed schedules on my kitchen counter. There were separate pages for the rehearsal: photographs, ceremony, dinner, and something called transitional mingling. "What am I transitioning to?" I asked. "Dinner, probably. I usually just walk there." He laughed, but he slid one page back under the others before I could read it. "You'll come Thursday, right?" he said. "Around noon?" "The wedding's Saturday. We need help with setup, and Leah's worried about her dress. The tailor fixed the waist, but something's pulling near the zipper. Did you tell her I'm not a seamstress? You fixed Dad's suit that time. I sewed on a button. She just wants you to look." That should have bothered me more than it did. Instead, I felt chosen. Needed, yes, but also included in the private machinery of the occasion. Guests would arrive Friday evening. I would already be there, entrusted with the fragile things. "Do I have a room?" I asked. "Diane's handling accommodations. She says it's all set. And what am I wearing to the rehearsal dinner? You don't have to dress up Thursday. It'll just be set up. I meant Friday." "Oh." He gathered the schedules into a neat pile. "I think Friday's more of a casual thing." I watched him tuck the pages into his leather bag. "What color is Diane wearing?" His hand paused on the zipper. "Green, I think. So I shouldn't wear green." "Wear whatever you want, Mom. Brides' mothers always say that right before they complain you ruined the photographs." He smiled, but it was the little closed-mouth smile he used when he had already left a conversation in his head. After he went home, I called my sister Paula. "Have you gotten your invitation?" I asked. There was a silence, then the sound of silverware. Paula was probably eating dinner over her sink. She claimed plates created unnecessary paperwork. To Ian's wedding? No, to the moon landing. It came last week. I pulled out a kitchen chair and sat down. Mine must be delayed. Marlene. "What? Did Ian say he mailed you one? He said immediate family doesn't need formal stationery." Paula let out a breath through her nose. She had made that sound since we were teenagers. It meant she was trying not to say something insulting and would fail shortly. That is the dumbest thing I've heard all week, and I spent Tuesday with a man who thinks the pharmacy is poisoning him through generic aspirin. He asked me to come Thursday. Then maybe he's giving you the details directly. "Exactly," I said maybe. I picked at a dried streak of glue on the table. "He wouldn't invite you and not me." "No," Paula said. "That would be insane." I wanted more certainty than she gave me, but certainty had never been Paula's department. She believed reassurance should be stored behind glass and used only in emergencies. The next morning, I texted Ian. "Do I need an actual invitation for anything at the inn?" He answered 10 minutes later. "No, your family. Don't worry about it." I read it 3 times. The discomfort loosened. Families do have their own rules. Mothers aren't ordinary guests. Nobody sends a hostess an invitation to her own Thanksgiving dinner. I told myself Ian was trying to save me from ceremony and paperwork. He knew I would be there. Leah knew I would be there. What was a rectangle of heavy paper compared with that? 2 weeks later, Diane came to my house carrying a plastic bin full of linen runners. She was a handsome woman with a silver bob that never seemed to move, not even in wind. That day, she wore cream pants and loafers the color of red wine. She looked around my dining room at the finished welcome bags. "My goodness," she said. "You've been industrious. I find unemployment gives the hands dangerous ideas. She blinked, then laughed after deciding I was joking. These need a quick press, she said, touching the runners. The venue charges an absurd amount for steaming. How many? Only 12. Only was becoming a wedding word. She lifted one welcome bag and peered inside. The honey faced forward. Perfect, she said. You have such patient hands. It was a compliment, though not one she would have given someone she expected to sit beside her. Diane, what are you wearing Friday night? The rehearsal dinner? A cream silk dress. Why? I'm trying to choose what to bring. Her eyebrows rose. Oh. Ian said you preferred not to attend the formal events. I smiled because sometimes the face moves faster than the mind. He did? He said this weekend might be emotional for you without Dennis and that you wanted to help behind the scenes. I thought it was very selfless. For one strange second, neither of us moved. Then Diane glanced at the runners, and I understood she wanted me to rescue us both from the awkwardness. Ian worries, I said. You know how sons are. Her shoulders relaxed. Constantly managing us. I pressed all 12 runners that afternoon. On the Thursday of the wedding, I loaded them into my car beside the welcome bags, my suitcase, Leah's sewing kit, and the small velvet box containing Dennis's silver cufflinks. My blue dress lay zipped inside a garment bag across the back seat. Bellwether Inn appeared at the end of a long gravel drive, white and spotless against the hills. Staff members carried chairs across the lawn. Florists unloaded buckets of pale roses. Through the open front doors, I saw unopened boxes, wooden signs, and the walnut table where the guest book would eventually sit. Ian came down the steps before I had turned off the engine. He opened my door, hugged me hard, and said, "Thank God you're here. You're a lifesaver." Behind him, Leah stood in the doorway holding her wedding dress against her body. When she saw me, relief crossed her face. "Marlene!" she called. "I'm so glad Ian convinced you to stay behind the scenes." I left one hand on the steering wheel. "Behind the scenes?" I said. Leah looked at Ian. Ian looked into my car as if one of the welcome bags might answer for him. "She means setup," he said. "You know, all the stuff we talked about. I didn't know I'd made it an official position." Leah lowered the dress. "I'm sorry. That came out wrong." "No, it came out interesting." Ian leaned closer to me. His smile remained in place, but his voice dropped. "Can we not start the weekend like this? I just got here. I haven't had time to start anything." A florist carrying a bucket stepped between us and said, "Coming through," in a tone that suggested flowers had diplomatic immunity. I got out of the car. Ian kissed my cheek again. "You're funny." It wasn't a compliment. It was a request. Leah came down the steps, gathering the skirt of the dress against herself. It was ivory, though I had learned not to say that. The official color was winter pearl. It had no sleeves and a narrow line of covered buttons down the back. "I think it's the hook," she said, "or maybe the zipper. Every time I sit down, this part buckles." "Are you wearing it now?" "No, this is a fitting slip underneath." "Good. I was about to tell you the driveway wasn't giving the dress its best chance." She smiled. Her relief looked real enough to make me feel mean. Ian unloaded the welcome bags while I took my suitcase and the sewing kit. I left the blue dress and cufflinks in the car because Ian kept stacking things into my arms as if there were prizes for emptying a trunk quickly. Inside, Bellwether smelled like lemon polish and cut greenery. The main house had old wooden floors, white walls, and furniture chosen to look inherited by people who had never spilled anything. Someone had arranged pears in a blue bowl beneath a sign that said, "Welcome to our beginning." "Who brought the pears?" I asked. Ian followed my eyes. "The inn." "They know this isn't the beginning of fruit, right?" He closed his eyes for a second. "Mom, I'm putting my suitcase down. That's all I'm beginning." My room was not in the main house. A young woman at the front desk checked a clipboard and pointed through the back window toward a low cottage beyond the parking area. "Garden cottage," she said. "Room 3. "Garden," I repeated. The view included 2 trash bins and the florist's van, but there were hydrangeas near the path, so apparently it counted. The room held 1 twin bed, 1 lamp, and a wooden chair that groaned when I set my purse on it. 2 other names were taped to doors across the narrow hall: Camille, hair and makeup, and Jordan, photography assistant. Diane appeared behind me as I was testing whether the closet door opened all the way. "There you are," she said. "I hope this is acceptable. The main house filled so quickly. Ian said you had it handled." "Yes, he said you'd be flexible." I looked at her. Diane touched her silver hair, though it did not need touching. That sounded better when he said it. I'm sure it did. We have everyone sorted according to their roles. The wedding party and immediate family are in the house, and support is out here. Support. Vendors and support, she corrected, which did not help. A pulse started behind my left eye. I set my suitcase on the bed and unzipped it very slowly. Diane stood in the doorway long enough to make leaving feel like losing. Then she said, "Leah's very nervous." I know. She doesn't show it. That's the problem. She holds everything tight until something tiny goes wrong, then the tiny thing carries all the weight. I glanced at her. For the first time since I had met Diane, she looked less polished than tired. "Ian does that too," I said. "Then we should probably keep them away from zippers." We laughed, and the moment saved her. It nearly saved Ian, too. I told myself there had been a room shortage. I told myself the front desk had used the word family because Ian had not made the assignments. I told myself weddings turned ordinary people into minor government departments, each one certain the other department had filed the right form. Upstairs in the main house, Leah stood on a towel while I inspected the dress. The problem was not the zipper. The seam beside it had been taken in unevenly, creating a ridge whenever she bent. "Can you fix it?" she asked. "I can improve it." Whether that counts as fixing depends on how much sitting you plan to do. Almost none. Marriage begins with realistic expectations. She laughed, then pressed both hands over her stomach. "What?" I asked. "Nothing. I just feel like I can't get a full breath." I had seen that in Ian. He would say he was fine while rubbing his thumb against the side of his finger until the skin went raw. "Take the dress off," I said. "Put on something ugly." "Why ugly?" "You need one thing nobody is trying to photograph." She disappeared into the bathroom and came back wearing plaid pajama pants and an old college shirt. I sat by the window with the dress across my lap and opened the sewing kit. For 20 minutes, we were almost comfortable. Leah told me Diane had rewritten the dinner seating 3 times because 2 of her cousins had stopped speaking over a vacation rental. I told her Dennis once seated both his sisters next to the same man they had dated in high school because he thought enough time had passed. "Had it?" she asked. "No, but the cake cutting happened early." She smiled, then watched my hands. "I hope you know Ian wasn't trying to exclude you," she said. The needle stopped halfway through the fabric. "From what?" "Not exclude. That's not the word." She pulled one knee toward her chest. "He said you didn't want all the mother of the groom attention." "I don't know what attention that would be. Pictures, the rehearsal, walking in before the ceremony." I drew the needle through. He said that. He thought it would be hard without Dennis. My husband has been dead 6 years. A wedding doesn't surprise me with that information. Leah's face changed. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "I don't know yet." There it was again, that brief opening where one of us might have asked the direct question. But someone knocked, and Diane came in carrying a box of table numbers. "Crisis averted?" she asked. "Mostly," I said. "Wonderful." "Marlene, when you finish, could you help me with the runners? The tables are longer than the measurements they sent." I looked at Leah. She was still watching me. "Of course," I said. By late afternoon, I had crawled beneath 2 tables, repressed 4 runners, sorted 50 welcome bags by room number, and found the missing box of votive candles behind a fake fireplace. Ian passed through every half hour, always moving quickly, always touching my shoulder as if affection could be delivered without stopping. At 5, he found me tying tags onto the welcome bags. "Dress okay?" he asked. It'll hold unless Leah takes up gymnastics before Saturday. Thank you. He leaned against the table. Seriously, why did you tell her I didn't want to be part of the formal events? His posture changed so slightly, another person might have missed it. I didn't say that. She thinks I chose not to rehearse or be in the family pictures. I said you didn't want to fuss. When did I say that? You're always saying you hate fuss. I hate raisins, too. Did you remove those from the wedding? He rubbed his forehead. This is exactly why I didn't want to get into it today. You didn't want to get into a conversation about my own attendance? There are a lot of personalities here, mine included. Yes, Mom, yours included. He said it quietly. That made it worse. I put down the tag I was holding. What does that mean? It means Leah and Diane have been planning this for 10 months. They have a very specific vision, and I'm trying to get everyone through one weekend without hurt feelings. You're doing terrific. See? That. The little comments. You told 2 different women 2 different stories about me, but my tone is the emergency. His jaw tightened. For a second, Dennis appeared in him again, not in the face, but in the stubborn set of the shoulders. You're here, aren't you? He said. You're part of everything. What time is the rehearsal dinner? He looked toward the hallway. Ian, it starts at 7. Where? The private dining room. And where am I sitting? It's mostly the wedding party and Leah's family. I felt something cold and precise settle beneath my ribs. The mother of the groom isn't part of the rehearsal dinner? We had to keep the number down. You have 48 people coming to the wedding. Tonight is 20, and I would make 21. Please don't turn it into a math problem. It is a math problem. His phone buzzed. He took it out, looked at the screen, and pushed away from the table. I have to handle this. You still haven't answered me. He slipped the phone back into his pocket without responding to it. Leah's parents are hosting tonight. Saturday is what matters. Can you please trust me until then? Trust me until then. Not. You're invited. Not your seat is beside mine. Just a request that I stop asking long enough for him to reach whatever came next. I thought of Paula's voice on the phone. I thought of Diane saying support. I thought of Leah in plaid pajama pants, apologizing before she knew what for. What am I supposed to do while everyone's at dinner? I asked. There's food in the kitchen, and honestly, it would help if you finish the bags. Guests start arriving in the morning. He kissed my forehead before I could decide whether to step back. You're the best, he said. At 6:45, voices gathered in the front hall. I stayed in the side room with the welcome bags while women passed the doorway in dresses and men adjusted their jackets. Diane wore cream silk. Leah had changed into a pale blue dress, and Ian wore the gray suit I liked. He paused at the door when he saw me. I had changed too. Not into the dress I'd packed for Friday, but into dark pants and a blouse. I wasn't going to sit alone in the kitchen wearing earrings chosen for a dinner I had not been invited to attend. You okay? He asked. You'll be late. His face softened with gratitude, as though I had just given him something. We'll talk tomorrow. All right? We will. He left with the others. I finished attaching the tags, then ate half a turkey sandwich from the kitchen, while standing over a trash can because there was nowhere else set for me. Through the wall, I heard a burst of laughter from the private dining room. It rose and fell, silverware beneath it, glasses touching. Jordan, the photography assistant from the cottage, came in looking for bottled water. You at the venue? He asked. No. Bride's side, groom's mother. He froze with the refrigerator door open. I smiled. Don't hurt yourself. He took a water bottle and disappeared. After dinner, Diane brought a box of place cards into the side room. Could you alphabetize these? She asked. The seating display goes up tomorrow. Of course. She hesitated. You're very gracious. That compliment hurt more than patient hands. When she left, I spread the cards across the table. Each name was written in dark green ink. Paula Mercer, Diane Bell, Leah's father, cousins, friends, co-workers, people I had never heard Ian mention. I sorted all 48 twice. There was no card with my name on it. Ian found me staring at the empty table after I had packed the cards back into their box. He looked at the box, then at me. "Mom," he said carefully, "I need you to trust me." "That sentence is doing a lot of work tonight," I said. Ian glanced toward the hall. "Can we keep our voices down? Everyone who might hear us is eating dinner." "Mom." I opened the box again and pulled out Diane's place card. "You said family was handled separately." "It is." "Then why does Diane have a card? She's hosting." I found the card with Leah's father's name and placed it beside hers. "He's hosting too." "They're married." "Yes." "They still need separate chairs, unless the wedding vision has become more intimate than I realized." Ian took the cards out of my hand and returned them to the box. "The seating has changed 6 times, he said. "I don't even know what the final arrangement is. These are the final cards. Diane just told me. She may change them again tomorrow. So, my card is coming in the morning?" His eyes moved toward the box. I waited. "Do you want me to go drag Leah out of dinner and ask her about a place card right now?" he said. "That isn't what I asked. Because I'll do it. If that's what you need on the night before my wedding, I'll walk in there and stop the dinner." He put one hand on the box, as if he truly intended to carry it into the dining room. He knew I would stop him. I knew he knew. It was an old trick in our family, offer something so excessive that the other person has to become reasonable. "No," I said. "Leave Leah alone." "Thank you." That wasn't an answer. "Tomorrow, Mom, just let me get through tonight." He picked up the box and left with it. At the cottage, a thin stripe of light showed beneath Camille's door. Somewhere outside, men were rolling something heavy across gravel. I sat on the bed in my blouse and dark pants and listened to my phone vibrate inside my purse. Paula had sent 3 messages. "Made it to my motel. Dinner is gorgeous. Tiny portions. You would hate it." "Where are you?" I typed. "Finishing some things. See you tomorrow." She replied immediately. "Finishing what?" I put the phone face down. Sleep came in 10-minute pieces. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the place cards spread across the table. At 2 in the morning, I became certain there was a separate family table without cards. At 2:15, I remembered Diane's card and became certain there wasn't. By 3, I had built 4 explanations, generous enough to let Ian remain the son I believed I had raised. The simplest was that the card had been lost. At 3:30, I remembered there had been 48 cards for 48 chairs. At 7, Ian knocked on my door. I opened it wearing my robe. "Do you have Dad's cuff links?" "Good morning to you, too." "Good morning." "Sorry." "Do you?" "They're in the car." He looked behind me as if Dennis's cufflinks might have moved themselves onto the nightstand. "I need them by noon. The ceremony is at 4. The photographer wants detail shots." "Does the photographer want your mother in any shots?" His mouth tightened. "We're not doing this first thing. We didn't do it last night either. Please get the cufflinks." He walked away before I answered. I showered, dressed in a cotton shirt and slacks, and took the velvet box from the glove compartment. My blue dress still hung across the back seat, the garment bag fogged slightly from the cool morning. I carried both inside. The inn had changed overnight. Music played in the entryway. Flower arrangements stood on nearly every flat surface, and staff members moved with the urgent calm of people being paid not to look urgent. The walnut table was now near the ceremony room, though the guest book had not yet been placed on it. I found Ian in the library with his groomsmen. He was holding a glass of orange juice and pretending not to be nervous. "Here," I said. I gave him the velvet box. He opened it and ran one thumb across the silver rectangles. DH. The engraving was so small, most people would never see it. "Thanks," he said. "Your father wore them to our wedding." "I know." He dropped one down the sink before the ceremony. Ian smiled despite himself. "That also sounds like him." He took the trap apart with a butter knife. "Your grandmother nearly killed him." For a moment, the room and the flowers and the missing place card disappeared. He was my son holding something that had belonged to his father. Then one of the groomsmen asked whether the cuffs matched the shirt, and Ian closed the box. "You should get ready," he told me. "What time are family photographs? We're keeping the pre-ceremony list tight." "What time?" "2. I'll be ready." He nodded too quickly. In the hallway, I nearly collided with Paula. She wore a red dress beneath a long cardigan and carried a gift bag stuffed with white paper. "There you are," she said. "I've been looking all over the main house. I'm in the cottage." "What cottage?" "The one by the parking lot." She looked toward the back door. "Why are you out there?" "Room shortage. You booked before I did." "I didn't book. Ian arranged it." Paula's eyes narrowed. "Did you eat last night?" "Yes." "What? A sandwich? At the rehearsal dinner? In the kitchen?" Her face went still. I reached for her gift bag. "This paper is crushed." "Marlene, I have tissue paper in the side room." "I don't care about the paper. You will when Diane sees it. Were you invited to the dinner?" "The guest list was limited. So was the oxygen on the moon. That doesn't answer the question." I pushed the paper down around the gift. "Don't start. I'm not starting. I think something started without me." Before she could continue, Diane came around the corner carrying a stack of programs. "Paula, how lovely," she said. "Marlene, could I steal you?" Paula answered before I could. "She's been stolen quite a bit already." Diane blinked. "My sister likes drama," I said. "My sister likes denial," Paula said. Diane gave a cautious laugh, uncertain which of us was joking. She took me to the ceremony room, where the chairs now stood in perfect rows. I had trimmed the ribbons on everyone, but I could not look at them without counting. "There are 6 extra programs," Diane said. "Could you put one on each chair in the back row? The others should remain in the basket." "Why only the back? In case we have unexpected guests." Unexpected guests got programs. I wondered what they got for dinner. I placed the last program on the final chair just as Leah entered with her hair pinned up and no makeup yet. She wore a white robe and slippers. "Can I borrow Marlene?" she asked. "I just borrowed her," Diane said. "I need her more." There was warmth in Leah's voice. For one foolish instant, I let it reassure me. Upstairs, she turned her back to me while I checked the seam one last time. It lay smooth now. "You saved it," she said. "I moved 6 stitches." Those were apparently load-bearing stitches. Her hands trembled as she fastened an earring. I took the earring from her and guided it through. "Did Ian give you the cufflinks?" I asked. "Yes." The photographer got a beautiful shot. "Good." She met my eyes in the mirror. "I'm glad you're here." "Are you?" "Of course." "What did Ian tell you I was doing during the ceremony?" Her hand stopped at her other ear. "You'll be there," she said. "Where?" "I assumed with everyone else. Did you?" She looked toward the closed bedroom door. "Marlene, is something wrong?" The direct question had finally arrived, and I nearly answered it. Then Diane called from the hallway that hair and makeup were running 12 minutes behind. Leah shut her eyes. "I'll take care of it," I said. "Marlene, today isn't the day for you to referee your own wedding. I meant it as kindness. It had the effect of protecting Ian again." At 2, I put on my blue dress. It had a soft collar, 3/4 sleeves, and a skirt that moved when I walked. Paula had talked me into buying it after I rejected 4 others for being too bright, too young, too old, and too much like something worn by a woman who owned racehorses. Camille helped me fasten the clasp at the back. "You look lovely," she said. "Thank you. Are you in the 3 o'clock photo group?" I was told 2. She checked a printed list taped beside her mirror. Immediate family was at 1:30. I looked at the paper. The names had already been crossed off. Diane and Leah's father, Leah with her parents, Ian with Leah's parents. Wedding party, siblings and cousins from Leah's side. There was no line for Ian with me. Camille read the list again as if my name might appear if she felt bad enough. "I'm sure they can still get one," she said. "I'm sure they can." Downstairs, guests had begun arriving. I saw Paula speaking to a man near the entrance and turned away before she could spot me. I didn't want her expression to tell me what mine should be. The guest book sat open on the walnut table, cream pages, silver pen, 3 white roses in a narrow vase. Ian stood near the ceremony doors, checking his watch. His cufflinks caught the light when he raised his hand. "Where do I sign?" I asked. He glanced at the book. "That's for people we invited." The woman behind me made a small sound, not quite a cough. She and her husband stepped around us to sign. Ian pulled me away from the table. "Mom, please don't do this right now." "Do what?" His eyes moved toward the arriving guests. "You know what?" I looked through the open doors at the rows of chairs. "Where am I sitting? We've been over this." "No, you've been around it." He lowered his voice. "There isn't a formal seat. A chair is formal now?" "You said you didn't want a fuss." I said I hate fuss. I did not say I wanted to stand outside your wedding. You can watch from the back if there's room. If there's room. Or from the side hall. The doors stay open. And dinner? We'll make sure you get something. Where? The kitchen, probably. Mom, you're here as family. You're not a guest. It was such an extraordinary sentence that I almost admired its construction. Paula is a guest. Yes. Your coworkers are guests. Yes. The man who fixed your garage door is a guest. He's my friend, and I'm support. His face changed. He knew I had heard the word. I never called you that. You put me in a cottage with the vendors because you said you were flexible. I was flexible about the bed, Ian, not my existence. A group entered behind us, laughing. Ian stepped closer. Leah's family had limits. We made choices. I did, all right? I handled my side. So Leah thinks I chose this because you told her I chose it. I was trying to avoid exactly this. You let me come here believing I was invited. I needed you here. The honesty landed harder than the lie. You needed my hands. Keep your voice down. Did you ever plan to tell me? His eyes filled, but not enough to stop him. Why can't you just let me have one day? He whispered. I reached into my purse and took out the small sewing kit I had brought downstairs in case Leah's dress needed another repair. I placed it in Ian's hand beside his father's cufflink. You already took it, I said. Then I walked out before anyone could decide where to put me. No one stopped me in the front hall. People moved aside because I was dressed like someone with a destination. Outside, the afternoon had turned warm. A staff member stood beside the steps directing cars toward the lower lot. He smiled at me. Ceremony entrance is around the side, ma'am. I'm familiar with the side. He opened his mouth, then thought better of it. My shoes sank into the gravel on the way to the cottage. Halfway there, I heard Paula call my name. She caught up with me near the florist's van, one hand holding the front of her cardigan closed. Where are you going? Home. The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. I know. She looked at my face, then back toward the inn. What happened? Nothing that can be fixed in 20 minutes. Marlene. I unlocked the cottage door. Paula followed me inside and stood in the narrow hall while I pulled my suitcase from beneath the bed. Tell me, she said. I took off my earrings and put them in the small zippered pocket of my bag. Were you right? She asked. That depends. How right were you? You're scaring me. I wasn't invited. She stared at me. To the dinner? To the wedding. That's ridiculous. You're standing at the wedding. As support. The word sounded even uglier in the little cottage. Paula leaned one shoulder against the wall. He said that? He said I'm family, not a guest. What does that mean? It means I can sew, iron, sort, fetch, and apparently watch from the hallway if the paying customers leave room. Her mouth opened. Don't, I said. I haven't said anything. You're about to. I'm about to go back in there. No. He invited me and not you. Yes. That man from his garage is here. I noticed. I'm going to ask him what the hell he thinks he's doing. I folded my cotton shirt and placed it in the suitcase. Paula, if you walk in there yelling, by tomorrow the story will be that I sent my sister to ruin the ceremony, so we're protecting him again. We're protecting me." She folded her arms. From what? From becoming the thing he already planned for. The anger left her face in pieces. She sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing her red dress and cardigan. The chair would have been closer, but it had my purse on it, and the cottage did not offer many options for emotional collapse. "He told Leah I didn't want to participate," I said. "He told me I didn't need an invitation because I was immediate family. He told Diane I wanted to work behind the scenes. Every version keeps him innocent until we compare notes. Did you talk to Leah?" "Not really." "Why not?" She was dressed in a robe with half her hair pinned up, trying not to panic. She should know. She should. But I'm not going to make her wedding aisle the location where she learns who she married. Paula watched me fold a pair of slacks, unfold them, and fold them again. "You could stay," she said quietly. "Sit in my chair. And you'll stand?" "I'll sit on the garage, man." A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. It was small and unpleasant, but it was a laugh. "You always did know how to dress for a felony," I said. "Read photographs well." My phone rang inside my purse. Ian. We both looked at it. "Answer," Paula said. I let it ring twice more before I picked up. "Where are you?" Ian asked. "In my room. The ceremony is about to start. So you noticed." "Mom, come back inside. Where should I sit?" A pause. "We do not have time for this. You had 10 months. People are asking questions. Tell them I wasn't invited." His breath hit the phone. "Can you hear yourself?" "Very clearly. Leah is upset. Does she know why I left? This is our wedding day. I can't get into every detail with her right now. Then she doesn't know. She saw you walk out. She thinks you're angry about the pictures. The pictures I wasn't in? Mom, stop." Paula held out her hand for the phone. I turned away from her. "Ian, I'm not coming back to stand behind a door and help you maintain a lie. It wasn't a lie. What do you call it? I call it trying to manage a difficult situation. What was difficult?" Another pause. Longer this time. "You," he said. The word was barely louder than the air conditioning unit outside. Paula saw something in my face and stood. Ian rushed on. "Not you as a person. Your feelings. Dad. All the family history. Leah's side didn't want tension, and I knew you'd take everything personally. You made me invisible so I wouldn't feel excluded. I didn't make you invisible. You've been involved in the entire weekend. As labor. That's not fair. No, it isn't." Music began somewhere beyond the cottage. Even through the walls, I recognized the first notes of the processional. "I have to go," Ian said. "I know. Please come back. Put a chair beside yours. I can't change the seating now. Then you've made your choice. You're really going to do this to me?" The music continued, patient and lovely. "Goodbye, Ian." I ended the call. For a moment, Paula and I stood without speaking. Then she took off her cardigan and laid it on the bed. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Leaving." "No, I'm not going in there after that. You were invited." "I'm aware. It's suddenly not as flattering as it was this morning. If you leave now, he'll say I took you with me. He can say what he wants. I don't want you to miss it because of me." She looked toward the window. "Do you want to know what I'll see if I stay? I'll see an empty space in the back of that room where you were told you could stand if there was room. Then I'll eat dinner while you drive home in that dress. I chose to leave. He chose first." There was no arguing with Paula once her voice became calm. Anger made her loud. Certainty made her quiet. We did not leave together. I insisted on that much. Paula waited 10 minutes while I carried my suitcase and empty garment bag to the car. The blue dress no longer felt new. It felt like a costume from a play that had changed while I was backstage. Near the main entrance, a woman handed welcome bags to arriving guests. One of the paper handles came loose and a jar of honey struck the gravel without breaking. The woman laughed and called for tape. I kept walking. On the drive home, I turned off the radio. Every song sounded badly chosen. The road wound through low hills, then flattened into the familiar strip malls and gas stations outside town. At a red light, I noticed that one of the white roses from the guest book had left a dusting of pollen on my sleeve. I brushed it off through 2 changes of the light while the driver behind me politely waited, then less politely used his horn. I stopped at a diner 40 minutes from home because my hands had started shaking. The hostess looked at my dress. "Special occasion?" she asked. Apparently not. She gave me a booth by the window. I ordered coffee and toast. At the counter, 2 women in golf shirts argued about whether a mutual friend had intentionally excluded them from a birthday dinner. One insisted the restaurant had limited seating. The other said there was always room if someone wanted you there. I left before their resolution. My house was exactly as I had left it. A clean mug waited upside down beside the sink. A grocery list was held to the refrigerator by the magnet Ian had brought me from Chicago 6 years earlier. On the dining table, there were faint square marks where the welcome bags had stood. I took off the blue dress and hung it over the back of a chair because I could not bear to put it in the closet. Then I washed my face, changed into Dennis's old gray t-shirt, and sat on the edge of my bed. At 6:12, Ian left his first message. "I don't understand why you couldn't wait until after the ceremony. You knew how much pressure we were under." At 7:43, he left another. "Everybody kept asking where you were. Paula left too. Do you know what that looked like?" At 10:16, his voice had changed. The careful anger was gone. "You abandoned me on the most important day of my life." I listened to that message twice, not because I enjoyed it, because I wanted to be certain those were the words. The next morning, Paula arrived carrying 2 coffees and a foil-wrapped piece of wedding cake. "I stole this," she said. "You took cake from a wedding you left before the ceremony? I went back after you drove off." I stared at her. I wanted to make sure Leah knew I wasn't sick or kidnapped. "I left before dinner, but I took cake from a cart in the hall. That isn't stealing, it's confusing catering." She set the cake on my counter. The ceremony happened. The flowers stood upright. Nobody died. Did Ian look happy? He looked like a man having his photograph taken while remembering a stove might be on. I busied myself opening the coffee lid. "Leah asked me what happened," she said. "What did you tell her? That she should ask her husband?" "Paula." "What?" "I didn't make a speech. I didn't throw anything. You took cake." "Afterward." She sat at my kitchen table. "Diane had to finish the welcome table because nobody knew where you put the spare ribbon. Top drawer in the sideboard. They found it eventually. The spare boutonniere didn't turn up. Blue box behind the library curtains. You see the problem, don't you? I see poor labeling." Ian kept looking at the back of the room. I peeled the paper sleeve off my coffee cup. "He called me," I said. 3 times. "Did he apologize?" "He said I abandoned him." Paula muttered something into her coffee. I carried the cake to the refrigerator, then changed my mind and put it in the freezer. There are things a person cannot eat while they still taste like evidence. Ian and Leah were supposed to leave that afternoon for 5 days in Maine. At 11, a text appeared. "Before we head out, can you still feed Oliver this week? Key is under the stone if you don't have yours." Oliver was their cat. I had agreed months ago before I understood that agreements only seem permanent when I made them. I typed, "No." 3 dots appeared, vanished, then returned. "Seriously?" "Yes. What are we supposed to do? Ask someone you invited." I erased that. It was satisfying for 4 seconds and smaller than I wanted to be. I typed again, "You'll need to make another arrangement." His response came immediately. Unbelievable. I set the phone down and went into the garage. The shelves along the far wall held 7 boxes with Ian's name on them. College books, winter clothes, old electronics, pieces of a life he had left in my house because he assumed there would always be room. I stood there for a long time without touching anything. Then I went back inside and wrote the only message I intended to send. "You did not forget to invite me. You let me believe I was invited because you needed my work. I will not keep participating in a relationship where I am family when you need labor and an outsider when I need consideration. Go on your trip. We can speak when you are ready to discuss what you did, not what my leaving looked like. I read it once. Then I pressed send. The message showed delivered for nearly an hour before it changed to read. Ian did not answer. At noon, Leah texted me. I'm sorry the weekend became painful. We're trying to find someone for Oliver. I hope we can all talk when we get back. Painful. The word made the wedding sound like a shoe that had pinched. I replied, I hope you have a safe trip. She sent a heart. I stared at it until the screen went dark. Paula stayed through lunch, although neither of us ate the cake. She made eggs in my kitchen and used every pan I owned for reasons known only to her. When she left, she took the foil-wrapped piece out of the freezer. You don't need this staring at you every time you want peas, she said. Where are you taking it? My house. Why? I haven't decided whether to eat it or bury it. The house went quiet after she closed the door. Sunday afternoons had a shape. At 3, I usually started whatever Ian had requested. Meatloaf, pot roast, chicken with the crispy potatoes he liked, which required boiling them first and then shaking them in the pot until the edges roughed up. Leah would bring wine. Ian would arrive 20 minutes late and open my refrigerator like a man checking on an investment. That Sunday, I found myself peeling potatoes before I remembered there was no dinner. I stopped with one potato half naked in my hand. It should have been satisfying to put it back. Instead, I peeled the rest, boiled them, and ate 2, standing at the stove. I threw away none of them. Boundaries apparently produce leftovers. The first family call came Monday morning from Carol, Dennis's older sister. Carol had attended the wedding in a purple dress and a hat she had spent 6 months claiming she would never buy. She began the conversation with 10 minutes about traffic, which told me the 11th minute would be unpleasant. Ian was devastated, she said finally. I'm sure. He said you left right before the ceremony. I did. Over the photographs? No. That's what I heard. Then you have heard one version. Carol went quiet. What version am I supposed to hear? I'm not assigning homework. Marlene, don't be like that. Like what? Cryptic. I carried my coffee to the dining room and sat where I had assembled the welcome bags. Faint lines of dried glue remained on the wood. I asked Ian where to sign the guest book, I said. He told me it was for people they invited. I asked where my seat was. There wasn't one. Another silence. Surely he didn't mean you weren't invited. He was very specific. But you were there all weekend. Yes, then how were you not invited? That is an excellent question for Ian. Carol sighed. Weddings make people crazy. They can also make people clear. I just hate seeing a family divided over one bad day. I looked at the glue mark beneath my thumb. It wasn't one bad day for him. He had 10 months to plan it. You're his mother. I know. That has to count for something. It counted for free labor. Marlene. I closed my eyes. Carol was not cruel. She was afraid of empty chairs at holidays, of Christmas becoming a set of separate negotiations, of being required to understand more than she wanted to know. I'm not asking you to choose, I said. I'm not asking anyone to choose. But I won't call it a misunderstanding to make the rest of you comfortable. I didn't say misunderstanding. You were working your way there. She gave a reluctant little laugh. You always did know where I was going before I got there. You signal. So what happens now? I don't know. That was the only honest answer I had. The day Ian and Leah came home, a florist delivered an arrangement of white lilies large enough for a funeral. The card read, "Let's put this behind us. Love, Ian and Leah." I had never liked lilies. Their scent filled the house in 10 minutes, and their pollen ruined anything it touched. Ian knew that. Leah probably didn't. I put the arrangement in the garage. That evening, Ian called. "Did you get the flowers?" "Yes." "You didn't say anything." What was I supposed to say? Thank you is customary. An apology is too. He breathed through his nose. I sent flowers. You sent vegetation. Why are you making everything hostile? I'm asking you to say what the flowers are supposed to cover. They aren't supposed to cover anything. They're a gesture. Toward what? Moving forward. We haven't discussed what happened. I tried to discuss it at the inn. You walked away. You told me I was difficult while music was starting. You kept pushing me. I asked where my chair was. I don't want to fight. Then why did you call? I thought you'd want to know we got home safely. You texted from the airport. Another breath. Can we have dinner Sunday? The question was so ordinary that for a second I almost accepted it. I pictured the chicken, the potatoes, Leah pouring wine while Ian talked about the coast of Maine. We would laugh at something small. The wedding would become an object in another room that everyone avoided bumping into. No, I said. Why not? I'm not hosting dinner. This Sunday or ever? This Sunday. He was silent long enough that I knew he had expected me to cook. We brought you something, he said. You can keep it. That's childish. So is bringing a souvenir instead of an explanation. I'm not going to beg. I haven't asked you to. He ended the call without saying goodbye. On Sunday afternoon, I drove the Lilies to Ian's house. The arrangement sat upright in the passenger seat, strapped in with the seatbelt. Every turn released another wave of their sweet, heavy smell. By the time I reached his street, I had the windows down. Ian answered the door wearing sweatpants and a faded college t-shirt. Oliver appeared between his ankles, looked at me, and walked away. Cats have never wasted emotion on ceremony. What are you doing here? Ian asked. Returning these. I lifted the vase. His face hardened. You drove all the way over to give flowers back? They were making the house smell like a viewing. Put them in another room. I don't want them. Fine, throw them out. You sent them. You can decide what they mean in your house. He took the vase because otherwise I would have had to set it on the porch. One of the Lilies brushed his shirt and left orange pollen across his chest. You could have just said, thank you, he said. You could have just invited me. His hand tightened around the vase. Leah came into the hallway behind him. She wore jeans and an oversized sweater, her hair tied back. When she saw me, she stopped. Marlene. Hello, Leah. Her eyes moved from the flowers to Ian. What's happening? Mom is returning our apology. No, I said. I'm returning flowers. Leah looked at the card tucked between the stems. Ian, that wasn't an apology. He turned toward her. It was an olive branch. With lilies, it's an expression. I know what it is. The two of them looked exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with travel. Leah stepped closer to the door. Will you come in? I wanted to. That was the worst part. Their house was familiar to me. I had helped choose the rug in the living room. There was a chipped green mug in the cabinet that Ian saved for me because I once said the handle fit my hand. Not today, I said. I didn't know you didn't have a seat. Ian's gaze snapped toward her. Leah continued. Paula told me to ask him. So I did. I explained it, Ian said. You told me she didn't want the attention. I told you what I thought was true. You told me she didn't want to be invited. That's not what I said. I stayed on the porch while they argued across the threshold. It felt too much like standing in the side hall at the ceremony, present enough to absorb everything, not placed anywhere I belonged. Leah, I said. She stopped. This is between Ian and me, before it is between you and me. I accepted your help, she said, all weekend. You believed what he told you. I also didn't ask. That surprised me. It would have been easy for her to let Ian carry the whole thing. No, I said. You didn't. Ian set the flowers on a small table inside the door. What do you want? He asked me. The truth. I have told you the truth. You've told me the seating was complicated. You've told me Leah's family had limits. You've told me I'm difficult. Pick one. I was trying to keep the weekend calm, by keeping me out, by keeping everybody comfortable, everybody except me. You said you didn't want fuss. You make comments when you're uncomfortable. You correct people. At the engagement dinner, Diane said I'd always been independent, and you had to tell the whole table you work nights and I heated canned soup. She said you practically raised yourself. It was a compliment. To whom? His face flushed. That's what I mean. You take something nice and make everyone feel guilty. I thought you should know who raised you. I know who raised me. Then why couldn't you sit beside her? Leah looked away. Ian's voice dropped. Because I wanted one weekend where I didn't have to manage the past. I nodded. The sentence had more truth in it than anything else he had offered, but he was not yet brave enough to hear what it meant. So you managed me instead, I said. He rubbed both hands over his face. I said, I'm sorry things got confused. Nothing was confused. What exact combination of words do you need? If I give them to you, I'll still be doing the work. I turned toward my car. Mom. I stopped. Are you really going to punish me forever? No, I'm going home. That's not what I mean. I know. In my garage, the 7 boxes still lined the wall. I took a marker and wrote Ian's current address across the top of each one. Then I texted him, please arrange to collect your boxes by the end of the month. He called immediately. I did not answer. The blue dress still hung over my dining room chair. I had been stepping around it for a week as if it were occupied. I carried it upstairs, put it in the back of my closet, and shut the door. My phone rang until the call went to voicemail. A second call followed, then a third. When I finally listened, Ian sounded offended rather than angry. You can't give me a deadline like I'm some stranger storing junk in your garage. Half that stuff is from Dad. Call me. Half was not from Dennis. I knew because I had packed every box during one of Ian's moves. Most contained college textbooks, kitchen equipment from his first apartment, and electronics he believed would become valuable if he ignored them long enough. I did not call. The boxes changed the shape of the garage once I pulled them away from the wall. I had to edge around them to reach the washing machine. Every load of towels became a reminder that I had created both a boundary and an obstacle. That Wednesday, the bulb above the garage door burned out. Ian usually changed it because the fixture was high and the ladder wobbled. I stood beneath it holding the new bulb, irritated by how quickly my independence had located a ceiling. My neighbor Ruth saw me dragging the ladder from the shed. Ruth was 71, divorced twice, and suspicious of any task requiring a man because both of hers had left unfinished projects behind. You need someone to hold that, she called across the driveway. I have it. That ladder leans left. It has character. It has a lawsuit. She came over and steadied it while I climbed. When the new bulb came on, she looked at the boxes. Moving? No. Evicting? Maybe. She nodded as if I had given the only sensible answer. Ruth had never required the private details of a crisis before offering approval. A few of us are seeing that old movie at the Rialto Friday, she said. The one where everybody has cheekbones and nobody tells the truth. That narrows it down. 7 o'clock. Friday had usually been reserved for errands so Saturday could remain open. Saturday remained open because Ian sometimes called. I had spent years arranging my time around possibilities he did not know existed. I'll come, I said. Ruth blinked. Really? You don't have to sound frightened. I've invited you 6 times. I was busy. You said you might be busy. There was a difference. Hearing it aloud made me tired. Ian arrived Saturday morning in a rented van. He backed into my driveway too fast, corrected too far, then sat behind the wheel for several seconds after turning off the engine. I opened the garage door before he came around. All 7? He asked. That's what I said. I don't have room at the house for all 7. You have a basement. Leah uses it for her exercise equipment. Then one of you will have to become flexible. His eyes moved to my face. Did you rehearse that? No. Diane gave me enough practice. He opened the van's rear doors with more force than necessary. We carried the first 2 boxes without speaking. The third broke open at the bottom when Ian lifted it. A metal colander, 3 paperback dictionaries, and a tangle of cables spilled across the garage floor. What did you pack this with? He asked. Hope. He crouched and held up a cable. Do you know what this goes to? No. Then why did you keep it? Because you told me not to throw anything away. That doesn't sound like me. You were 27. Everything sounded like you. He almost smiled. Then he found a framed photograph face down beneath the dictionaries. It had been taken at a restaurant the year Ian turned 30. Dennis sat on one side of him, I sat on the other, and Ian wore the expression of a man being loved more publicly than he preferred. Dennis had died 11 months later. Ian wiped dust from the glass with his sleeve. "You could have kept this one," he said. "It's yours. You're in it. So are you." He looked at me. "Are you trying to erase me from the house?" "No. It feels like it. I'm asking you to take responsibility for things you left here. They weren't hurting anyone. That isn't the standard anymore." "What standard?" "Whether you assume I'll carry something because I always have." He stood with the photograph in one hand. "These are boxes, Mom, not a moral crisis." "I agree. Put them in the van." He set the photograph carefully on the passenger seat. By the 5th box, we were both sweating. I brought him water without asking. He drank half the glass in one swallow, then looked toward the kitchen. "Did you eat?" he asked. "Yes." "What?" "Food. Do you have anything for lunch? I have food for me." The hurt on his face appeared before he could hide it. Ian had opened my refrigerator without permission for so many years that not feeding him felt almost theatrical. "I can make you a sandwich," I said. His expression hardened. "I don't want a sandwich. You just asked." "I asked if you had anything." "Forget it." We carried the 6th box. The last one contained winter coats, a broken desk lamp, and 2 stacks of notebooks from graduate school. Ian opened it and pulled out one of Dennis's flannel shirts. "I thought this was gone. You wore it when you helped paint the upstairs bedroom." He held it by the shoulders. The cuffs were stiff with old blue paint. "Do you want it?" he asked. My answer rose automatically. "Yes." Then I saw what he was offering, a piece of Dennis in exchange for my returning to the old roles. Maybe he did not know that was what he was doing. That did not make it safer. "It was in your box," I said. "Take it. You can have something without it becoming a negotiation. So can you." He dropped the shirt back inside. When the van was loaded, he stood in the driveway, wiping his forehead with his sleeve. "Leah thinks I lied to her," he said. "Did you?" I simplified. "That is a word. She says I used her family as an excuse." "Did you? You were there?" "You know how Diane is. Diane didn't tell me I wasn't invited. You did. She made it clear she wanted the weekend calm, and you decided I was the weather." He looked away. "I wanted them to like me." The sentence was so quiet I almost missed it. "Did they?" I asked. "What?" "Like you." "I think so." "Was it worth it?" His head came back around. "You don't get to ask me that after walking out. Then we're done for today." I went into the kitchen and took the spare house key from the hook beside the pantry. Ian followed me. "What are you doing?" I placed the key on the counter between us. "You still have one of these." "You gave it to me. For emergencies." "So? You've used it to borrow tools, get food from my freezer, and leave things when I'm not home. I always tell you." "Afterward." He stared at the key. "You want it back?" "Yes." "You think I'm going to break in?" "No, I think I'm going to stop pretending access and closeness are the same thing." His mouth tightened. "You really have turned this into a whole campaign. I asked for a key." He did not take the one on the counter. "Mine is at home. Bring it when you can. Anything else?" "No." He walked out without saying goodbye. The van started, backed down the driveway, and disappeared at the corner. The garage looked enormous without the boxes. I should have felt relief. Instead, the bare wall showed 7 clean rectangles where dust had never settled. Leah called that afternoon. "I'd like to talk to you alone," she said. I sat at the dining room table. "Does Ian know you're calling?" "Yes." "Does he approve?" "No." There was more steel in her voice than I had heard at the inn. We met the next morning at a coffee shop halfway between our houses. Leah was already seated when I arrived, turning a paper cup slowly between her palms. She stood to hug me, hesitated, then sat again. "How was the movie?" she asked. I stared at her. Ruth posted a picture, she said. You were tagged. I didn't know I had been tagged. You looked like you had fun. The movie was terrible. We had a wonderful time. A brief smile crossed her face, then disappeared. I owe you an apology, she said. Not one from Ian. Mine. I waited. I knew you weren't on the rehearsal dinner list. Ian said you'd ask not to be. I knew you weren't on the photo schedule. He said photographs were hard for you because of Dennis. I knew there was no place card, but I thought he was handling his side. Did you know there was no seat? Not until after you left. Did you ask where I would eat? No. Her honesty did not excuse her. It did, however, make it harder to place her inside the simple shape of my anger. Why didn't you? I asked. She looked down at the coffee. Because every time something about your role seemed strange, Ian had an explanation that let me keep planning, and I accepted it because accepting it was convenient. The espresso machine hissed behind the counter. He told me your family wanted limits, I said. My family wanted the guest count under 50. My mother was difficult about the rehearsal dinner, but you never said your name should be removed from the wedding. Did you? No. Then Ian did. Yes. She said it without flinching. What happened after I left? I asked. Nothing dramatic. That almost made it worse. We got married. Everyone smiled. Diane fixed the welcome table. Ian couldn't find the boutonniere, behind the library curtains. I know that now. She rubbed one thumb along the seam of her cup. During the vows, she said, I looked at the back because Ian kept looking there. I thought he believed you might come in. I was already on the road. He didn't tell me what he said to you until Maine. Even then, he made it sound like you misunderstood. He told me the guest book was for people they invited. Her eyes closed briefly. I keep finding sentences like that, she said. Things he said to you, things he said to me. Each one was small enough to defend by itself. Why are you telling me? Because he keeps asking me to help you understand. I leaned back. And will you? No. That surprised me again. He says you know how he gets under pressure, she continued. He says if I explain that, you might stop punishing him. I'm not punishing him. I know. Do you? I'm beginning to. I looked out the window at a man struggling to fold an umbrella that had no intention of cooperating. Leah, I won't make you a messenger between us. I don't want to be. And I won't tell you what this means about your marriage. Her face tightened. I didn't ask. No. But you're asking something. She was quiet a long time. Did he always do this? She said finally. Make different people responsible for different versions of him? I thought of Sunday dinners canceled with one explanation for me and another for Leah. I thought of Diane's runners, the place cards, the blue dress in the back of my closet. I think, I said, he always had someone willing to make it easy. When I returned home, a small envelope lay on the workbench in the garage. Inside was my spare key. There was no note. I held the key in my palm until the metal warmed, then carried it into the kitchen and dropped it into the junk drawer. It landed among dead batteries, rubber bands, and 3 instruction manuals for appliances I no longer owned. I shut the drawer and immediately wished I had put it somewhere more respectful. For the next several days, every sound near the side door made me think Ian had let himself in. The refrigerator motor clicked on. A branch brushed the siding. Ruth dropped a metal watering can in her driveway and shouted a word that sent 2 birds out of her maple tree. Nobody opened my door. The key had annoyed me when Ian used it casually. Its return felt like a lock turning. Ruth took me to another movie on Friday. This one had no cheekbones, only explosions. Afterward, 4 of us went to a diner where coffee came in thick white mugs and the waitress called everyone sweetheart with varying degrees of sincerity. Ruth introduced me to Lorna and Ed, a married couple who argued about movies as if a judge might award custody of the opinion. Lorna said the explosions represented male loneliness. Ed said they represented a generous special effects budget. "What do you think?" he asked me. "I think everyone should have left town after the first helicopter." Ed pointed at me. Practical. I like her. The three of them had been seeing movies together for years. Ruth had invited me often enough that they already knew details about me I had not personally supplied. "You're the retired hospital scheduler," Lorna said. "Unit coordinator. Ruth said you kept surgeons from killing each other. I kept them from reserving the same room. Same thing. They invited me to trivia the following week. I said yes before checking my calendar. There was nothing on it except a dental cleaning and a note reminding me that Dennis's birthday was approaching. For 6 years, we had marked his birthday with dinner at my house. I made beef stew because it was the only meal Dennis had ever learned to cook, though learned was generous. His version contained enough black pepper to strip paint. Carol brought his favorite pie. Paula brought wine and complained that dead people got better menus than the living. Ian usually told the story about the sink trap and the cufflink. Carol called on Tuesday. "Should I make apple or cherry?" she asked. "For what?" "Dennis's dinner." I opened my calendar, although the date was written there in my own hand. "I'm not hosting it this year." "Oh." One syllable held an entire family meeting. "I can host," she said after a moment. "My table's smaller, but will fit. You should if you want." "Will you come?" "I don't know." "Marlene, it's Dennis's birthday." "I remember when it is." That wasn't what I meant. I stood at the kitchen window. Ruth was outside trying to persuade a vine to climb in the direction she preferred. The vine had other plans. "Is Ian coming?" I asked. He hasn't answered. "Then don't arrange it around me. You are both arranging everything around each other while pretending you're not speaking. I'm not preventing him from going. You're making it difficult." "No, I'm making it less easy." Carol sighed. "Those sound like the same thing from over here." They probably did. That evening, Ian called. I almost let it go to voicemail, then answered because not speaking had begun to feel too much like waiting. "Carol says you canceled Dad's dinner," he said. "I canceled nothing." I declined to host. "We've done it at your house every year." "I know. So because you're mad at me, nobody gets to remember him? Your memory isn't located in my dining room. You know what I mean." "Yes. You mean I'm responsible for maintaining the tradition, cooking the meal, setting the table, and making it comfortable for you to remember your father. You used to want to." "I did." "Then this is punishment." "No. This is me not hosting a dinner while we are barely speaking." "We're barely speaking because you won't accept an apology. You haven't made one." I sent flowers. We discussed the lilies. He made a frustrated sound. "Can we meet somewhere?" "Why?" "Because every phone call turns into this. This will follow us to a restaurant. At least you'll have to let me finish a sentence. I should have refused. Instead, I agreed to meet him the next afternoon at a cafe near his office. Ian was already seated when I arrived. He wore his work clothes and had removed his tie, folding it beside his phone on the table. There were 2 coffees waiting. "I got yours black," he said. "I use cream." "You never used to," I started. He pushed the small pitcher toward me. "Fine." It was such a perfect summary of us that I nearly laughed. He watched me pour the cream. "Leah met with you." "Yes. You didn't tell me. I didn't know I was required to report. She came home thinking I'm some kind of manipulator." "What did you tell her?" "That you and I have a complicated relationship. Our relationship became complicated when you decided your mother didn't belong at your wedding. See, that's what I mean. You reduce the whole thing to one sentence that makes me sound monstrous. It was one sentence. You said it beside the guest book." He looked around the cafe. Nobody was listening. Still, he lowered his voice. "I handled it badly." "That is closer. Closer to what? The script you've already written? There is no script. There has to be. Every time I say anything, you tell me it isn't enough. Try saying, 'I knew you believed you were invited.'" He looked down at his coffee. The silence answered for him. "You did know," I said. "I knew you were coming. That isn't the same thing. You keep acting like we locked you outside. You were part of the weekend. Were you part of the weekend when you carried boxes and fixed a dress?" "I was getting married, and I was making it easier for you. I thanked you. You called me a lifesaver. Then you told me the chairs were for everyone else." He pushed his coffee away. "Do you want me to tell you why?" "Yes. You make me nervous." The bluntness caught me off guard. He saw that and continued before I could speak. You correct people. You tell stories I don't want told. If someone compliments me, you explain how hard you work to make it possible. If I remember something one way, you tell me that isn't how it happened. You bring Dad into conversations, and then everyone has to watch what they say. I listened. He had expected me to interrupt. When I didn't, he lost some of his momentum. At the engagement dinner, he said, Diane said I'd always seemed self-sufficient. You told her I learned because you work nights and Dad was sick. Your father wasn't sick. He had been laid off and was drinking too much. Exactly. What part is exact? You couldn't just let it be a compliment. She said you practically raised yourself. I was sitting beside you. You made her feel guilty. She should have felt inaccurate. Sometimes people say things to be nice, and sometimes nice things erase someone. He leaned back. You see everything as erasure now. No, I see what you did as erasure. You never liked her family. That isn't true. You make fun of the way Diane talks. I make fun of the way everyone talks. It's one of my worst qualities. You thought the wedding was pretentious. I thought transitional mingling was pretentious. I also steamed the runners. You didn't support it. I repaired Leah's dress on my lap while she tried to breathe. What support were you looking for? He looked out the window. The cafe door opened, letting in a gust of wind that lifted the corner of his folded tie. I wanted one thing that wasn't about where I came from, he said. There it was again. Not an apology, but a door he had opened by accident. Where did you come from? I asked. You know what I mean. I want to hear what you mean. I grew up with money always tight. Dad was unpredictable. You worked all the time and then told everybody how hard it was. Every good thing came with a story about what it cost. Because it cost something. I know. But I wanted to walk into that room and not have anyone thinking about it. Anyone thinking about me. About all of it. And you thought I would bring it through the door in my purse. You don't have to say anything. It's the way you look when people talk. I sat back. That hurt because some part of it was true. I had spent years making sure Ian remembered who had paid, who had stayed, who had done without. I called it accuracy. He sometimes experienced it as a bill. I can apologize for embarrassing you at the engagement dinner, I said. I can apologize for telling stories you didn't want told. We can talk about every way I've made you feel obligated, but you don't get to stack those things around your wedding decision until I can't see it. I'm not doing that, you are. I'm trying to explain. Then finish the explanation. You were afraid I would make you uncomfortable, so you chose not to invite me. You still asked me to work because I needed you there. You wanted my service. I wanted you. Where? He said nothing. At the dinner table? I asked. In the photographs? Beside you before the ceremony? Where did you want me? His eyes had turned red. He looked angry about it. I can't do this with you, he said. You asked to meet. I thought you'd listen. I did. You gave me real things to think about. Did you hear any of mine? He stood and picked up his tie. So Dad's dinner is just gone? He asked. It can happen at Carol's. Without you, if that's what I decide. He shook his head. You always make people choose. No, Ian. I'm finally letting them. He left his coffee untouched. On Dennis's birthday, Carol called at 4. The stew needs salt, she said. It always does. Paula says it needs wine. Paula thinks everything needs wine. There were voices behind her. I could hear plates, a cabinet closing, Edna the dog barking from another room. Is Ian there? I asked. No. He said he had plans. I closed my eyes. You could still come? Carol said. I had spent the whole day insisting to myself that staying home was a boundary. At 4 o'clock, it felt more like hiding. I'll be there in 30 minutes, I said. Carol's table was crowded. Paula moved her chair. Carol found another place setting, and nobody asked me to explain my arrival. We ate stew that needed both salt and wine. We told stories about Dennis, including some Ian hated and some I had forgotten. His chair was not empty because there was no chair assigned to him. Carol had not set one after he declined. The distinction should not have mattered. It did. When I got home, there was a voicemail from Diane. "Marlene, I hope it isn't inappropriate for me to call. I've been thinking about the wedding, and I believe there are things Ian allowed you to blame on me. I would like to correct that if you're willing." I stood in the dark kitchen with my coat still on and listened again. I returned Diane's call before I could decide whether waiting would give me an advantage. She answered on the first ring. "Thank you," she said, "for calling you back, for being willing. I haven't agreed to anything yet." "Of course." Her careful tone made me feel like a temperamental appliance. "What is it you want to correct?" I asked. "Not on the phone." That sounded more dramatic than anything Diane had said in all the time I'd known her. "You can come here tomorrow at 2, I said. "I don't want to impose. You called to discuss imposing." She paused. 2 is fine." The next day, Diane arrived at 152 carrying a bakery box. She wore navy pants, a soft gray sweater, and the expression of a woman about to speak at a funeral where she was uncertain how the deceased had felt about her. "You didn't have to bring anything," I said. "I didn't know the protocol. There isn't one. That's never true." She handed me the box. Inside were 6 small lemon cakes arranged in paper cups. "Very curated," I said. She surprised me by laughing. We sat at the dining room table. I offered coffee. She asked for tea, then apologized for asking for tea, so I made it partly to stop her. Her eyes moved over the table's surface. "This is where you assembled the bags?" "Yes." I saw the glue. I looked at the thin, dried lines. "I should clean those." "Don't on my account. I rarely clean on other people's accounts." She folded her hands around the mug. "I never asked Ian to leave you out of the wedding," she said. The directness was almost a relief. "Did you know he had?" "No, not exactly." "That's an answer with a back door." "Yes." She looked down. "I knew you weren't on the rehearsal dinner list. I knew he had not assigned you a seat for the reception. I believed what he told me about both, that I preferred it, that you were uncomfortable with formal attention, that the day would be difficult without Dennis, that you wanted to help privately and leave once the reception began. I brought a dress. I saw it. Did that raise a question? It should have." The kettle clicked as it cooled behind us. Diane turned the mug slowly between her hands. "The rehearsal dinner was my fault. Ian made the list. I set the limit. 20 people. My sister and her husband were included, and when Ian asked about adding you, I said we had already stretched the number. I pictured him at the cafe telling me Leah's family had limits. What did he say? He said it was fine. He said you wouldn't mind because you were happier helping, and you accepted that." "Yes." "Because it was convenient." "Yes." I had expected resistance. Her agreement left me with nowhere to push. What about the wedding itself? "When I saw you had no card," I asked Ian. He said his side was handled differently. He told me that too. I should have looked at the seating plan and counted. Instead, I assumed there was an arrangement I didn't understand. "You alphabetized the cards." "I forgot." "No," I said. "You forgot who did it." Color rose along her neck. "I deserved that." "Probably." She took a breath. "At the engagement dinner, when I said Ian seemed as though he'd raised himself, you corrected me." "I did. I felt embarrassed. You were inaccurate. I was trying to compliment him." "I know. I told Ian afterward that I found you." She stopped. "Go on, Sharp. That's kinder than what you meant. I said you had a way of putting people in their place. I've been told. I asked him whether there was likely to be tension at the wedding, and he said yes. He said he would manage it. The word sat between us. So when he put me in the cottage with support, I said, you thought he had managed me." Diane's fingers tightened around the mug. "I did." "You liked that arrangement. It made the weekend easier. For you, yes." I looked at her silver hair, her perfect nails, the gray sweater chosen to appear less formal. She had participated, not by ordering my removal, but by benefiting from it and keeping her questions small. "I accepted your labor," she said. "I called you patient. I asked you to press runners while knowing you weren't coming to dinner. I let Ian's explanations make me comfortable. That sounds like an apology. It is. Then say the smaller words. She looked directly at me. I'm sorry. It did not fix anything. It did not feel like nothing. Thank you, I said. She released a breath. Leah is furious with me, she said. Why? For not noticing. For accepting Ian's story. She did the same. She knows. I carried our mugs to the kitchen, though neither was empty. Are they all right? I asked before I could stop myself. Diane was silent long enough to choose her answer. They are married. That wasn't what I asked. It is all I know. I rinsed a spoon that did not need rinsing. He thinks she is taking your side, Diane said. I didn't ask her to. I know. Did Leah send you here? No, she asked me not to come. That turned me around. Why? She said you shouldn't have to receive a parade of apologies from women while Ian remains angry. I leaned against the counter. That's perceptive. She is often perceptive after the moment when it would have been most useful. Family trait? Diane smiled without much humor. Possibly. She stood and collected her handbag. Is there something I can do? She asked. Don't explain Ian to me. I wouldn't. You did for 10 months. She accepted that too. After she left, I called Paula. Diane apologized, I said. For existing? For accepting free support while knowing I wasn't included in the rehearsal dinner. That's more specific than I expected. She says she never asked Ian to exclude me. Do you believe her? Yes. Paula made a thoughtful noise. Does that make it better? No. Worse? Cleaner. That sounds worse. It was. That evening, I found myself thinking about the engagement dinner, not Diane's summary of it. The whole thing. We'd been seated in a private room at an Italian restaurant. Ian wore a new jacket. Leah kept touching his sleeve, and he kept pretending not to notice because he liked it too much. Diane said he was wonderfully self-contained, as if nothing in life had ever unsettled him. He practically raised himself, she'd said. I answered before Ian could. Not quite. I worked nights for a while, and Dennis was going through a bad stretch, but someone always made sure Ian ate. The room had gone quiet. I had added the part about Ian heating canned soup because I wanted them to know his independence had not arrived as a charming personality feature. It had come from necessity, from tired adults, from a kitchen where Bill sat under a ceramic rooster because Dennis could not bear to open them. I had wanted credit, not all of it, enough. I had wanted Diane to stop admiring the finished man without seeing the woman who had held the pieces. Ian had looked down at his plate. I called him. What happened? He answered. Nothing. You don't call at 9 for nothing. I've been thinking about the engagement dinner. A pause. Why? You were right. Silence again, this time more suspicious. About what? He asked. I shouldn't have told the canned soup story. Diane was complimenting you, and I made it about what your childhood cost me. I didn't say it like that. You came close. What is this? An apology. You're apologizing now? Yes. After everything? An apology doesn't require a favorable climate. He exhaled. Did Diane call you? She came here. Of course she did. She apologized for her part. So now all 3 of you have held a meeting? Leah wasn't here. But you talked about me. We talked about the wedding. Same thing lately. I sat on the edge of my bed. I'm not calling to corner you. Then why are you calling? To tell you I heard one of the things you said. You were right that I sometimes make your accomplishments carry my receipt. He did not respond. I'm sorry, I said. I'll try not to do that. So that's it? That's the apology. What do you want from me now? Nothing tonight. He laughed once without amusement. That's not true. I want many things from you. I'm not trading my apology for them. So you get to be gracious, and I'm still the villain. This isn't theater. It feels like a trial. I didn't invite Diane. I didn't send Leah to ask questions. You told different stories, and now the people who heard them are speaking to one another. I was trying to get through a wedding. You got through it, and now I'm paying forever. It has been a few weeks. It feels like forever." There was a strain in his voice I recognized. I had heard it after Dennis died, when Ian handled arrangements all day and then sat on my kitchen floor at midnight because he could not remember where he had parked his car. The old instinct rose in me. Tell him it was all right. Ask if he had eaten. Give him a place to put what he could not carry. I gripped the phone tighter. "How is Leah?" I asked. Angry. "Are you talking?" She keeps asking why I didn't tell her the truth. "Why didn't you? I thought she'd understand afterward." I closed my eyes. "That is what you thought about me." "I know." The words came softly, not an apology, not yet, but the first time he had admitted the pattern without defending it. "I don't know how to fix all of this," he said. "You could start by not calling it all of this." "What should I call it? What you did?" He was quiet. "I have to go," he said. "All right." He ended the call. At trivia the next night, I answered a question about state capitals too quickly and got it wrong. Ed knew the right answer but had let me overrule him. "I thought you sounded confident," he said. "I often do." Ruth lifted her glass. "Self-awareness. Useless in trivia, excellent at funerals. We lost by 1 point. Nobody blamed me for more than 5 minutes. On Sunday, I roasted chicken and made crispy potatoes. Not because Ian might come. I invited Paula, Ruth, Lorna, and Ed. Carol came late with cherry pie and complained that the crust had betrayed her. My table seated 6 if everyone liked each other. We managed. At 7:30, my phone lit up on the kitchen counter. Ian's name appeared, then vanished before voicemail picked up. For one aching second, I wanted to call him back and ask if he had eaten. Instead, I carried the potatoes to people who had arrived while they were still hot. Paula noticed the missed call when she carried plates into the kitchen. "Are you going to call him?" she asked. "No." "You stared at the screen like it contained medical results." "I was reading his name." "Did it change?" "Still Ian." She set the plates beside the sink. Maybe he was trying. Trying what? To call. He succeeded. The phone rang. Paula gave me a look, but Ruth came in asking where I kept aluminum foil, and the moment passed. After everyone left, I stood in the dining room among used glasses and crumbs. The chairs had been pushed back at different angles. Ed had left his napkin beneath the table. Carol's pie server was still in the kitchen, which meant I would receive 3 phone calls about it before Tuesday. The room looked lived in. I checked my phone once more before bed. Ian had not called again. At 9 the next morning, he sent me a picture Ruth had posted. All 6 of us stood behind the table. Ruth was holding the serving spoon like a microphone, Lorna had her eyes closed, and I was smiling with one hand on Paula's shoulder. "You had Sunday dinner," Ian wrote. I waited before answering. "Yes, with Aunt Carol, yes, and strangers. They are my friends." He called before I could put the phone down. "I thought you weren't hosting anymore. I hosted last night." "You told me you weren't." "I told you I wasn't hosting Dad's birthday dinner. So 2 days later you cooked for everyone except me?" "It wasn't everyone. It was 5 people." "You know what I mean." I looked at the dirty roasting pan still soaking in the sink. "Did you call during dinner because you wanted to come?" "I called because it was Sunday. That isn't an answer. I didn't know you were having people. I invited them." His silence sharpened. "You could have invited me," he said. I closed my eyes. "Ian." "What?" "The problem was never that a person can't invite whom they choose." "Then what was it?" "You told me I was family, so I didn't need an invitation. Then you used the lack of one to explain why I didn't belong. I'm not talking about the wedding. You are. Every time you ask me to pretend it didn't happen, you're talking about it." He sighed. "So this is the new thing. Random people get my place at your table?" "No one has your place. That's not how it looked. I thought photographs didn't tell the whole story." He ended the call. At noon, my doorbell rang. Ian stood on the porch holding a brown paper bag in one hand and the framed restaurant photograph in the other. "I found this in the box," he said. "I remember. I brought lunch." The bag had the logo of a deli near his office. He had driven 25 minutes from work in the middle of the day. I stepped aside. He entered without brushing past me, which was new. Before the key came back, he would have opened the side door and announced himself from the kitchen. I put 2 plates on the table. He unpacked turkey sandwiches, chips, and a container of potato salad. "You don't like potato salad from this place," I said. "It's for me. You don't like it either." I panicked at the counter. I found pickles in the refrigerator. Ian set the photograph between us. "I don't want this in a box." "Then hang it." "Leah doesn't like family photographs in the living room." "Where does she like them?" "She says they make the room look cluttered." "That house has 6 decorative pillows on 1 couch. I'm not here to discuss pillows. What are you here to discuss?" He took a bite of his sandwich and chewed longer than necessary. "Leah says she doesn't trust me," he said. I waited. "She keeps asking what else I simplify." "That seems fair. I knew you'd say that." "Why ask me if you knew? I'm not asking you to agree with her." "What are you asking?" He looked at the photograph. "Talk to her." "No. Just tell her I'm not some habitual liar. I won't referee your marriage. You already told her I make different people responsible for different versions of me." She asked a question. "And you answered in the worst possible way." "I answered honestly. You could tell her I'm not a bad person." "I don't think you're a bad person." "Then say that to her." "She didn't ask me if you were bad. She asked whether this was a pattern." His jaw moved. "Is it?" he asked. "You cancel plans with me and tell Leah I changed them. You tell me Leah needs something when you need it. You used to tell your father you were staying late at work when you were avoiding his calls. That was different. It usually is. So I'm a liar. You avoid discomfort by editing the people around you. That sounds like something you practiced. I've had time." He pushed his plate away. "I came here to have lunch." "No, you came to ask me to make Leah trust you. I brought food, and then you made the request." He rubbed his forehead. "I don't know what she wants from me," he said. "Have you asked?" "She wants to know when I decided you weren't invited." I sat back. What did you tell her? That there wasn't one moment? Was there? He picked at the edge of the deli wrapper. "We were working on the first guest list," he said. "Her side was already over the number. We had to cut people. You were not a person to cut from her side." "I know. Go on." "I said my side could be small. She asked whether you'd be upset about not inviting some of Dad's relatives. Carol was invited because Leah likes her." The answer was so careless he flinched after saying it. "And me?" I asked. "You were on the first list." "Then what happened?" Diane made that comment after the engagement dinner about not wanting tension. Leah and I argued because she thought you judged her family, and I said maybe it would be easier if you weren't in the formal parts. Leah agreed. She said she didn't want me to regret it. That is not agreement. She didn't stop me. Neither did Diane. Is that how you decided it was everyone's choice? He pressed both palms against the table. "I thought I would talk to you. But you didn't. Every time I tried, you were excited. You bought the dress. You started asking about photographs, so you kept me busy. I thought if you were involved enough, it wouldn't matter where you sat." I looked at him. He heard the sentence only after it was out. "That's not what I meant." "What did you mean?" "I don't know." For the first time, he sounded less angry than lost. "You knew it mattered," I said. "That's why you hid it." He stared at the photograph between us. Dennis's arm was around the back of Ian's chair. My hand rested near the birthday cake. "Leah asked me where I wanted you to sit," he said. "At the wedding? In the version where I wasn't worried about anybody." "And?" I didn't answer. "Why?" Because every answer sounded like admitting something. I let that sit. He looked up. "Will you talk to her?" "No." His face closed. "Ian, If I rescue you from this, you'll learn the same lesson again. You really like having the language for all of this. No. I liked it better when I thought you forgot to send a card. He stood, leaving half his sandwich on the plate. Keep the picture, he said. It's yours. I don't want it. Then why bring it? He looked at Dennis's face. I thought you'd want something from the boxes. I wanted you to keep something because it mattered. His eyes flicked toward me, then away. He took the photograph when he left. Carol found me in the grocery store 2 days later. She had her cart positioned sideways across the canned vegetables, creating a roadblock while comparing sodium levels. Ian called me, she said. I'm sorry. He thinks everybody has joined a committee against him. I didn't know we had quorum. This is serious. So are those beans, apparently. She put down a can. He asked whether you talked about him at dinner. We talked about Dennis. He thinks you invited me to make a point. I invited you because you're my sister-in-law. Technically widow-in-law. That sounds like a Victorian diagnosis. Carol smiled despite herself. Then she touched my arm. He's hurting. I know. You are too. Yes, someone has to go first. I apologized for the engagement dinner. He didn't mention that. I'm shocked. I'm not asking you to forget the wedding. What are you asking? To leave a door open. He returned the key. That isn't what I mean. I know. I chose 2 cans of beans I did not need and placed them in my cart. The door is open, I said. The old arrangement isn't. Carol nodded slowly. I'll tell him. Don't. Why? Because then he'll hear it as another message delivered by a woman doing his work. She considered this, then returned 1 can to the shelf. Progress took strange forms. At trivia, I knew the answer to a question about a river, but waited until Ed finished speaking before I corrected him. He was still wrong, and we lost another point. Personal growth is ruining our score, Ruth said. I laughed harder than the joke deserved. The next morning, Ian sent me a picture of Dennis's flannel shirt. He had washed it and hung it over a chair. The old blue paint still marked the cuffs. Found $20 in the pocket, he wrote. Your father hid money from himself. Do you want the shirt? No, keep it. He responded with a photograph of Oliver asleep on top of it. Dad would hate this. Your father allowed you to put a live frog in his good shoes. I was 9. I thought about the rule against correcting his memories. 11, I typed. 3 dots appeared. Then, you can't help yourself. There was no anger in it. I wrote back. Apparently not. For 1 minute, we were simply ourselves. The following Sunday, Ian called at 4 p.m. I'm not asking for anything, he said before I could speak. That's an unusual greeting. Leah and I are having dinner next Saturday. All right, I would like you to come. I waited. As a guest, he added, there will be a chair, possibly several. The joke was clumsy. His voice was not. Does Leah want me there? She does. Do you? Another pause, but this one did not feel like a lie being arranged. Yes, he said. I looked at the dining room table, the faint glue lines still visible when the light struck them. I'll think about it, I said. I thought about it while brushing my teeth, while making coffee, and while standing in the grocery store holding a carton of eggs I could not remember choosing. Paula listened to the entire question over the phone. He said there would be a chair, she asked. Possibly several. That sounds like Ian trying to be funny while standing on thin ice. He gets that from Dennis. No, Dennis was funny. I put the eggs back and picked up another identical carton. Should I go? Do you want to? I want to. That isn't the same. No. Paula was quiet. Go if you're curious. Don't go because he finally met the minimum furniture requirement. I accepted the invitation that evening. What should I bring? I texted. Nothing. Just yourself. I stared at the words. Then I typed, 6? 6 is good. On Saturday, I changed clothes 3 times. The first outfit looked too eager. The second looked like I was attending a zoning dispute. I settled on dark pants and a rust-colored sweater Dennis used to call burnt soup. At 5:45, I found myself in the wine aisle. Guests brought wine. Mothers brought food. Support brought safety pins. I left with nothing. Ian's house glowed warmly behind the bare branches. I parked at the curb instead of pulling into the driveway, then sat with my hands on the steering wheel until the porch light came on. Ian opened the door before I reached it. "You came," he said. I said I would. "I know. Come in." Oliver appeared in the hall, sniffed my shoe, and accepted my arrival with more confidence than either of us. The lilies were gone. In their place on the entry table stood the framed restaurant photograph from Ian's box. Dennis sat smiling behind the glass, one arm across the back of Ian's chair. "I thought family pictures made the room look cluttered," I said. Leah came out of the kitchen carrying a wooden spoon. "One picture isn't clutter." "I said it wasn't," Ian told her. "You said you didn't care. That means I didn't object. It means you made me make the decision." They looked at each other. "Should I go back outside?" I asked. "No," they said together. The dining table was set for 3, no place cards, which I appreciated. Ian had placed me across from Leah and beside him. I noticed the arrangement because I had become a person who noticed arrangements. "What are we having?" I asked. "Pot roast," Ian said. "You made pot roast? I followed a recipe." "Whose?" "The internet's." "Then we should have a number nearby." He smiled. "It's cooked." That was not my concern. Leah touched my arm. "Can I hug you?" The question was so unlike the way our family usually operated that it made my throat tighten. "Yes." Her hug was careful at first. Mine was, too. Then she held on a second longer, and I felt how thin she had become since the wedding. Not dramatically, just enough for a mother to notice, even one without jurisdiction. We sat in the living room while the roast rested. Ian asked about the movie group. "Ruth says you're terrible at trivia," he said. "Ruth is careless with private information. You answered Sacramento for the capital of Oregon. California has been aggressive for years." Leah laughed. Ian watched me laugh with her, and for a few minutes we talked about movies, Ruth, and the argument between Lorna and Ed over explosions. Nobody used the wedding as a doorstop. Dinner looked better than I expected. The roast leaned toward dry, but the gravy corrected for it. Ian had made carrots and mashed potatoes. He apologized for not making the crispy ones. "You don't have to reproduce Sunday dinner," I said. "I thought you liked them." "I do." "Then why does that sound like criticism?" "It isn't." He looked suspicious. "This may take practice," Leah said. "We served ourselves." Ian asked whether I wanted more gravy before pouring it, another small new thing. Halfway through dinner, Leah put down her fork. "I don't want us to pretend this is normal," she said. Ian's shoulders dropped. We agreed not to make the whole dinner about it. We agreed not to ambush Marlene. "I don't feel ambushed," I said. He looked at me. "Do you want to talk about it?" "Do you?" "I asked you here. That isn't the same." He pushed a carrot through the gravy with his fork. "I'm sorry." "For the wedding." Leah closed her eyes briefly. Ian saw. "What?" "She asked you for smaller words," Leah said. I said, "I'm sorry." "Let him answer," I told her. "I'm trying." "I know." "Don't." Leah pressed her lips together and picked up her water. Ian looked between us. "And I'm sorry I didn't handle your role better." "My role was the one part you handled thoroughly." He flinched. I had promised myself I would not sharpen every sentence. I took a breath. "Try again," I said. "I should have told you the guest list was limited." "You told me that." "I should have told you that you weren't formally included." "Invited." "That you weren't invited." The word cost him. Not enough, but something. "When should you have told me?" I asked. "When we decided? Before I assembled the bags?" "Yes." "Before I bought the dress?" "Yes." "Before I arrived?" "Yes." He stared at his plate. "Why didn't you?" I asked. "I knew how you'd react." "How?" "You'd be hurt. You'd ask why. You'd say I was ashamed of you. Were you?" His fork stopped. Leah did not move. "I was worried," he said. "That wasn't my question. I worried you would say something to Diane or one of Leah's relatives. I worried you'd be uncomfortable and make everyone else uncomfortable. That sounds like shame, with better manners. It wasn't about being ashamed of you. What was it about? Why do you need me to use that word? Because you keep describing it." He pushed his chair back slightly, then caught himself and pulled it in. "I wanted the wedding to be easy," he said. "It wasn't." "I know. When did you expect me to find out? I thought you understood." "No, you didn't. I thought when you saw how the weekend was organized, you thought I would discover it gradually enough that I would be too embarrassed to object." His face changed. There it was. "I didn't think you'd leave," he said. The room became very quiet. "What did you think I would do? Be angry, and then stay. Where? In the back. The side. I don't know. And after? We would talk. After I watched the ceremony from a hallway and ate in the kitchen." He rubbed both hands over his face. "When you say it like that, how else should I say it? I thought you'd stay because I'm your son." The honesty of it hurt more than the careful phrases. "You counted on that," I said. "Yes, you counted on me loving you more than I respected myself." "No. Yes, Ian. I didn't think of it that way. You didn't have to. I had spent years teaching you I would stay." Leah looked at me, but I kept my eyes on Ian. He had tears in his eyes again. This time, he did not turn them into anger immediately. "I'm sorry I did that," he said. "For what? For thinking you would just take it. That was real. Incomplete, but real." I nodded. He waited. "I hear you," I said. "Is that all? What do you want me to say? That we're okay. We're having dinner." "That isn't an answer. It's the answer I have." He looked away. Leah reached for her glass, and the wooden table gave a small creak beneath her wrist. "I'm sorry, too," she said. "I know you told me the original decision was Ian's, but I let it become easy for me. I saw you working. I knew you had no place at the rehearsal dinner. I didn't ask enough because I didn't want another problem." "Thank you," I said. Ian's head turned. She says sorry once and gets thanked. She named what she did. I named what I did. Part of it. What part is missing? I could have told him. I could have given him the words from the message I had sent after the wedding. "You made me useful, so you did not have to make me visible." You wanted Leah's family to admire the man without seeing the woman and the life behind him. But if I supplied the language, he could repeat it without ever finding it. "I'm not going to write it for you," I said. He stood and began collecting plates. "We haven't had dessert," Leah said. "I'm clearing the table. You're angry." "I'm clearing the table while angry." He carried the plates into the kitchen. I looked at Leah. That part, at least, is honest. She laughed before she could stop herself, then covered her mouth. From the kitchen, Ian said, "I can hear you." Dessert was a store-bought apple pie. Ian returned calmer and cut 3 uneven pieces. He gave me coffee in the chipped green mug. "You kept it," I said. "You act like we throw out everything when you leave. I've seen your basement. We relocate things." Nobody apologized again. We discussed whether Carol's pie crust was truly capable of betrayal and whether Oliver's attachment to Dennis's flannel shirt meant anything. Ian said it meant the shirt smelled like a basement. Leah said it meant Oliver had taste. When I stood to leave, Ian walked me to the door. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Thank you for inviting me. Do you want the photograph?" "No." He glanced at it. "I'm going to leave it there." "All right." He opened his arms, then stopped. "Can I?" I let him hug me. He felt thinner, too. Driving home, I cried hard enough that I had to pull into a pharmacy parking lot. Nothing terrible had happened. That was what made the tears difficult to explain. For 3 hours, I had almost had my son back. Almost was close enough to feel warm and far enough to remain lonely. Over the next few weeks, Ian called without asking for things. The first time, he wanted to tell me Oliver had dragged Dennis's flannel shirt into the laundry room. The second time, he asked whether the movie group had seen anything good. The third time, he said he was near my house and wondered if I wanted coffee. I did. He arrived 20 minutes late, holding 2 cups. You use cream now, he said. I noticed. We sat on the porch because the weather was mild. He did not mention the wedding, neither did I. When he left, he took his empty cup with him instead of leaving it on my counter. A week later, he canceled another coffee because a meeting ran over. I read his message and felt the old arrangement reaching for me. I could move my plans. I could suggest the following morning. I could make his apology easy to resume whenever he had room. No problem, I wrote. I'm busy the rest of the week. Another time. He called that evening. Are you mad? No. I'm busy. With what? Trivia. A retirement dinner. Ruth found a play she claims will change my opinion of theater. You hate theater. I hate people singing instead of answering direct questions. That sounds hereditary. He paused. Can we do coffee next Tuesday? Yes, same time? Be there. I will. For the retirement dinner, I took the blue dress out of the back of my closet. It had been dry cleaned after the wedding, though I did not remember taking it. The fabric still moved beautifully when I walked. I wore different earrings and spilled red sauce on one sleeve before the main course. Ruth blotted it with soda water. Well, she said, now it belongs to you. A photograph from that dinner found its way online. I was standing beside Nadine, my former supervisor, both of us laughing with our heads tipped toward each other. Ian sent me a message. Blue looks good on you. I typed, it always did. His reply came a minute later. I know. We met for coffee on Tuesday. He arrived early. He asked questions and listened to the answers. When I mentioned Nadine's retirement, he did not ask whether I had told her about the wedding. When he spoke about Leah, he stopped himself twice before explaining what she felt. Marriage is hard, he said, so I've heard. We're working on it. I'm glad. He stirred his coffee, although he drank it black. Could I come over Sunday? He asked. For dinner? No. The answer seemed important to him. Just to talk, he said. No food, no favor, nothing for you to fix. I looked at my son across the small table. All right, I said. Come at 3. Sunday morning, I cleaned the kitchen as if a health inspector were coming. At 10, I caught myself taking chicken from the freezer. No food, I said aloud. Ruth, who was returning a borrowed umbrella at the side door, heard me through the screen. Is this a new diet? She asked. My son is coming to talk. And you're threatening the poultry? He said no dinner. Smart man. I have other qualities. Name one that doesn't involve feeding people. I handed her the umbrella. Go home. She looked past me at the spotless counter. Do you want me to be available? For what? An alibi, a body removal, I'll call. At 2:58, Ian knocked on the front door. Not the side door, not the bell. 3 quiet knocks. He stood on the porch wearing jeans and a navy sweater. His hands were empty. I brought nothing, he said. I see that. I almost brought coffee. I have coffee. I know. We looked at each other. Come in, I said. He followed me to the dining room instead of drifting toward the refrigerator. Afternoon light lay across the table, catching the faint glue lines from the welcome bags. I had tried twice to remove them. They had faded but not disappeared. Ian sat in the chair he used to take at Sunday dinners. Do you want coffee? I asked. You don't have to make anything. I was offering a beverage, not lifelong service. Coffee would be good. I brought 2 mugs and the small pitcher of cream. He noticed. You remembered, I said. I pay attention sometimes. Yes. He wrapped both hands around his mug but did not drink. I've been trying to figure out how to say this without making it sound rehearsed, he said. Did you rehearse? Yes. Then don't pretend. That almost made him smile. It did not quite get there. He looked at the glue marks. I knew you thought you were invited, he said. The sentence entered the room and stayed there. I sat very still. I knew before you did the bags, he continued. I knew when you asked what to wear Friday. I knew when you texted about the invitation. I answered in a way that kept you from asking again. Yes. I told myself family wasn't the same as guests. I told myself you were part of the wedding because you were helping. I kept changing the wording so I wouldn't have to say what I had done. What had you done? I left you off the list. He swallowed. Not Leah, not Diane. Me. I waited. Diane was difficult about numbers, he said. Leah was defensive after the engagement dinner. Those things were true, but I used them. Nobody told me not to invite you. Nobody made me take your name off. Why did you? His fingers tightened around the mug. Because I was ashamed, there was the word. Of me, of where I came from, of how much I still needed you, of the way I felt around Leah's family. He looked up. They talk about old vacations and houses they lived in and people they know. Even their bad stories sound good. A missed flight in Paris, a storm at a lake house. When Diane called me self-contained, I liked it. I liked the version of me she saw, the one who raised himself. Yes, I did not rescue him from the answer. When you corrected her, he said, I was angry because you told the truth, not because you said it badly. You did say it badly, I know. But that wasn't the real reason. You reminded them I wasn't some naturally confident person who came from nowhere. I came from you and Dad, from that house with the furnace that broke every winter, from you working nights, from Dad losing jobs and pretending he hadn't. None of that was your fault, I know. I still wanted it hidden. Why? Because I thought if they saw what it took to make me, they would see all the parts that could come apart. His voice cracked on the final word. He looked down at the table. I wanted to reach across. My hands remained around my own mug. So you hid me, I said. Yes. And still asked me to work. Yes. Explain that part. He closed his eyes. I needed you. Leah was anxious. The details were falling behind. I knew you'd make things steady. You knew I'd say yes. I knew you'd say yes if you believed you belonged there. The room seemed to narrow. Ian kept going. I let you buy a dress. I watched you arrive with the bags and the runners and Dad's cufflinks. I called you a lifesaver because that was the part of you I was willing to show people. His hand flattened over one of the glue lines. I made you useful so I wouldn't have to call you important. I looked toward the window. Outside, a squirrel ran along the fence with something in its mouth. Ruth's car turned onto the street, slowed suspiciously near my house, then continued. Did Leah give you that sentence? I asked. No. Diane? No. How long did it take you to find it? Since the wedding. Not before? I knew what I was doing before. I didn't use honest words for it. I faced him again. What about the guest book? His mouth tightened. I saw you walking toward it. You could have stopped me privately. I could have. You could have said there had been a terrible mistake. Yes. You said, that's for people we invited. I know. Why that sentence? He rubbed one thumb against the side of his finger. The skin there was red. I panicked. That explains speed, not cruelty. I wanted you to back down. The answer came quietly. People were arriving, he continued. I thought if I made it sound like you had misunderstood something obvious, you would be embarrassed and stop asking. I had known. Hearing him name it still took the air from me. You wanted me to feel foolish. Yes. Your mother in a new dress, holding your father's cufflinks. Yes. So you could get through the door. He nodded. Tears slipped down his face. He wiped them away with the heel of his hand. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry I didn't invite you. I'm sorry I lied to you and Leah. I'm sorry I used the work you did to make myself feel like you were included. I'm sorry I put you in that cottage, left you out of dinner and pictures, and expected you to stand in the back because I believed being my mother meant you would take whatever place I gave you. He drew a breath that shook. I'm sorry I blamed you for leaving after I gave you nowhere to stay. I looked at the son I had wanted to comfort since before he could speak. He was 39. He was responsible for the pain on his face. He was also in pain. Both things were true. What do you want from me? I asked. Nothing today. That's what people say when they want forgiveness. I do want it. I'm not asking you to give it because I finally said the right thing. Did you say the right thing? I said the true thing. That mattered. I took a sip of coffee. It had gone cool. "Do you know what was hardest?" I asked. "The wedding?" "After. The quiet." He looked at me. "You thought I was punishing you," I said. "I was trying to learn how much of my life had been arranged around waiting for you. Sundays, errands, the boxes, keeping the key hook empty in case you needed access." His eyes moved toward the kitchen where the junk drawer held the key he had returned. "I missed you," I said. "I was furious, and I missed you. Every good thing I did without you felt disloyal at first. I saw the pictures. I know. I thought you were replacing me. I was making room for myself." He nodded slowly. "I don't know what happens now," I said. "Neither do I. The old arrangement is gone. I know. No, listen. You don't get the key back because we had one honest conversation. Sunday dinner will not return as a standing appointment I maintain for you. I won't store your life, explain you to Leah, or be available whenever your other plans disappear. All right, and I won't pretend the wedding was confusion. I won't either. If a relative asks, I will tell the truth." His face tightened, but he nodded. "Okay, you don't have to enjoy consequences to accept them. I'm learning." I looked at his hands. Dennis's hands, almost. Longer fingers, same square nails. "I owe you something too," I said. "You already apologized. Once isn't a legal limit." He gave a weak laugh. "I made my sacrifices into an invoice," I said. "Not every time. Enough times. I reminded you what I had done whenever I felt unseen. I told stories that belonged partly to you because I wanted people to understand my part." He started to speak. I raised one hand. "That did not cause your wedding decision. No. It doesn't excuse it. No. But it hurt you. I'm sorry." He looked down. "I loved what you did for me," he said. "I hated feeling like I could never finish paying for it. You couldn't. That was the problem with my accounting." We sat without speaking. Nothing lifted from the room. There was no warm rush, no sense of a door swinging open. The truth was heavier than the excuses because it belonged to both of us now. Ian traced one glue line with his fingernail. "Do you want me to get that off?" he asked. "No, it's dried glue. I know what it is." He left his hand where it was. "Can I ask one thing?" he said. "You can ask. If we have dinner again, can it not be a test? What would the test be? Whether I say everything right? Whether I bring the right thing or arrive at the right minute? You should arrive when you say you will." I walked into that. "You did." He smiled properly for the first time. "I don't want you performing remorse for me," I said. "I want you to behave differently when there isn't a scene. I can try. Don't promise more than that." At 5, the light began to fade. We had been talking for nearly 2 hours. Ian stood and carried his mug to the kitchen. I said no work. I called after him. "I'm placing a mug in a sink. Slippery slope." He returned with his jacket. At the door, he hesitated. "May I hug you?" "Yes." This time I put both arms around him first. He held on tightly. I could feel him trying not to make the hug ask for anything. That effort broke something open in me. When we separated, his eyes were wet again. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." It was not forgiveness. It was not absolution. It was older than both. After he left, I called Paula. "Well?" she asked. He told the truth. All of it? Enough that I didn't have to pull it out of him. "What did you say?" "That I believed him." "Do you forgive him?" "I don't know what that means tonight." "Fair." I stood at the dining room table and touched the glue line Ian had tried to scrape away. He said he made me useful so he wouldn't have to call me important. Paula went silent. "That's terrible," she said. "Yes." "And accurate." "Yes." "Did you feed him?" "No." "I'm proud of you." I gave him coffee. "You're only human." On Tuesday, Ian texted at noon. "Coffee next week? Your schedule." I looked at my calendar. Trivia Thursday. A play with Ruth on Saturday, lunch with Carol on Monday. Wednesday at 10, I wrote. I'll be there, he replied. He was. He brought his own coffee, remembered mine had cream, and asked about the play without mocking theater until I did first. When we stood to leave, he said, Leah's birthday is next month. We're having a small dinner. She wants to invite you herself. I'd like that. No pressure. Good. He nodded, accepting the answer without trying to improve it. As he walked toward his car, I noticed I was not measuring how long until he called again. For the first time in months, the space between us did not feel like abandonment. It felt like room. Leah called me herself the following evening. I would like you to come to my birthday dinner, she said. 6 o'clock, 3 Saturdays from now, at our house. That is a very specific invitation. I've learned to remove ambiguity. What should I bring? Nothing. Do you mean nothing, or do you mean something small that everyone will resent me for not understanding? I mean, come through the front door at 6 with your purse. All right? Marlene? Yes. I'm glad you're coming. The dinner included Leah's father, Diane, 2 of Leah's friends, Ian, and me. Nobody seated me in the kitchen. Nobody handed me wrinkled cloth. Diane brought a cake from the same bakery that made the lemon cakes. When she began removing it from the box, she looked at me and said, Would you mind? Then she stopped. What? I asked. Nothing. I was going to ask you to find a knife. I can locate a knife without becoming support. Her face turned pink. I know, I'm teasing you. I know that too. Eventually. Ian appeared beside us with a knife, plates, and forks. I've handled the crisis. There wasn't a crisis, Diane said. You were both near a cake. I know the history. Leah laughed from the dining room. It was not an extraordinary evening. That was what made it good. Leah opened gifts. Her father told a long story about choosing the wrong exit on the highway. Diane corrected him twice. Ian caught my eye after the second correction, and neither of us said anything. When the cake was served, I received the first piece without having cut it. Ian drove me home because Paula had borrowed my car while hers was being repaired. Before the wedding, he would have used the drive to ask whether I could return the favor with an errand. That night, he carried my coat to the door and waited until I found my keys. Did you have a good time? He asked. I did. Diane was nervous. She survived. She wants you to like her. I'm considering it. He smiled. At the door, I said, Thank you for the ride. Thank you for coming. Clear invitations became part of the new language between us. Ian asked if I wanted coffee. Leah asked if I wanted dinner. I said yes sometimes and no sometimes. No stopped producing an investigation. When Ian called about a Sunday lunch and I told him I had tickets to a play with Ruth, he said, How about Monday? Don't you work? I can meet near your house. You don't have to rearrange everything. I'm not. I'm checking another day. We had lunch Monday. The play was terrible. Ruth loved it because the lead actor had what she called committed eyebrows. I hated it because everyone spent 2 hours keeping a secret that could have been resolved by speaking one direct sentence. Maybe you're too close to the material, Ruth said. At lunch, Ian listened to my review and said, You've hated every form of entertainment since meeting these people. I enjoy hating things with company. That might be the healthiest change I've seen. Careful. He arrived when he said he would. When he did not, he apologized without telling me how busy he was, as though busyness were a medical exemption. I stopped keeping dinner warm on the assumption he might appear. The changes were small enough that nobody outside us would have noticed. They were also small enough to be difficult to fake. Leah and I developed a relationship that did not travel through Ian. She called me about a movie Ruth recommended, then admitted she hated it 20 minutes in. I told her she was allowed to leave a theater before the end. She said she was practicing that in several areas of her life. I did not ask which ones. She and Ian were still married. They were also less polished. Sometimes Leah came to dinner without him because he had plans. Sometimes he came without her because she did. Neither explained the absent person as though managing a scandal. At Carol's winter supper, the wedding returned in the way unpleasant subjects do, through someone who had no idea the room had agreed not to mention it. Carol's friend, Martin, had missed the ceremony because of surgery. He was looking through photographs on Leah's phone when he asked, "Where's Marlene? You didn't get one with the groom's mother?" The table went still. I reached for my water. Ian answered before anyone else could. "She isn't in the wedding pictures because I didn't invite her." Martin looked up. "What?" "I asked her to help with the wedding and let her believe she was invited. She left when she found out she wasn't." Leah put down her fork. Diane stared at her plate. Carol appeared to be silently urging the roast to catch fire. Martin glanced at me. "I'm sorry, I didn't know." "Neither did I said. That was the problem." Ian looked at me, but he did not ask me to soften it. Martin cleared his throat. "Well?" "That was a terrible question." "It was a reasonable question," Ian said. Then he asked Carol to pass the potatoes. No one applauded. Nobody delivered a speech about courage or family. Martin passed me the gravy and talked too loudly about road construction for the next 10 minutes. On the drive home, I called Ian. "You didn't have to answer for me," I said. I answered for myself. "Yes, I'm tired of hoping everyone heard the version that makes me look better. How does it feel?" "Awful." "That sounds right." He laughed. When spring came, Ruth and I planted tomatoes in raised boxes along my garage. She believed vegetables grew better if insulted, so most mornings began with her telling seedlings they lacked ambition. The bare wall where Ian's boxes had stood became a place for garden tools. I hung the ladder properly. Ian offered to install stronger hooks, and I told him I could do it. He did not argue. 2 weeks later, one hook came loose and dropped a rake against my car. I called him. "You were right about the hooks," I said. "Could you repeat that?" I wasn't recording. Don't make this rare event unpleasant. He came Saturday with a drill. Before entering the garage, he asked, "Do you want help, or do you want me to show you?" The question pleased me more than the repaired hooks. "Show me," I said. He marked the studs and handed me the drill. I installed the remaining hooks while he steadied the ladder. When we finished, he looked toward the junk drawer through the open kitchen door. "Do you still have the key?" "Yes." "You don't have to give it back." "I know." That was all either of us said. For Mother's Day, Ian asked me to lunch at a restaurant by the river. Leah came. Paula joined us because she said motherhood was largely a clerical distinction at our age. Ian brought no flowers. "You didn't bring anything?" Paula asked. "I brought a reservation," he said. "He knows his audience," I told her. After lunch, he gave me a small package. Inside was a framed copy of the restaurant photograph from his 30th birthday. "You said you wanted me to keep it," I said. "I had another print made. Mine is still by the door." Dennis smiled behind the glass, one arm behind Ian's chair. The photograph no longer felt like an object being offered in negotiation. It was simply a day we had shared. "Thank you," I said. Ian nodded. He did not ask whether the gift meant we were all right. My 69th birthday approached with more organization than I wanted. Paula announced she was planning dinner at my house because restaurants did not permit her to control the size of cake slices. "You're not cooking," she told me. "It's my kitchen. You may use it for water." Ruth volunteered to make salad. Lorna and Ed brought chicken from a place Ed claimed used secret spices. Carol insisted on pie. Leah offered potatoes. "What is Ian bringing?" I asked. "Chairs," Paula said. "Chairs?" "Your table seats 6 if everyone likes each other. We're at 9, and I'm not risking it." Ian arrived an hour early with 3 folding chairs in the back of his car. He knocked at the front door. "You know the party is here," I said. "I was told not to use the side entrance without permission." "Paula told you that?" Paula sent instructions in capital letters. He carried the chairs into the dining room. Leah followed with a covered dish and kissed my cheek. "Happy birthday. You're early. Ian has chair anxiety now." "It's situational," he said. He opened the table and added the leaf while I stood beside him. For years I had done that alone, balancing one end against my hip while trying to line up the wooden pegs. Ian did not take over. He waited until I nodded, then lifted his side. The expanded table showed the old glue marks near one end. I had stopped trying to remove them. Paula arrived and directed everyone as if responding to a natural disaster. Ruth carried in a salad large enough to feed a railway station. Lorna and Ed argued about whether the chicken should remain covered. Carol brought both apple and cherry pie because grief over pastry had made her cautious. Diane was not there. Leah's father was not there. Not every relationship needed to fit at every table. Leah came because I invited her. Ian came because I invited him. While the others filled the kitchen, Ian stood near the dining room doorway with one folding chair still in his hands. "Where does this go?" he asked. "Near the window." He placed it there. "And where am I sitting?" he asked casually, but his eyes stayed on mine. I looked at the table. Paula had put herself at the end closest to the kitchen so she could interfere with service. Ruth and Lorna were already disputing salad dressing. Ed hovered near the chicken. Carol arranged the pies on the sideboard. Leah stood behind a chair, waiting. There was one place beside mine. I pointed to it. There. Ian glanced at the chair, then back at me. "You sure? I invited you." His expression changed, not relief exactly and not forgiveness. Something quieter. The understanding that a place offered freely had to be received without assuming it would always be there. He pulled out my chair first. "Sit down before Paula assigns you a task," he said. "I heard that," Paula called from the kitchen. "You were meant to." Everyone came to the table carrying something. The chicken was uncovered. The potatoes were hot. Ruth had forgotten the salad tongs, so we used 2 large spoons and pretended that had been the plan. Paula lifted her glass. "No speeches," I said. "I was going to ask who needs wine." "Then proceed." Glasses moved around the table. Plates filled. Conversations crossed and tangled. Nobody transitioned into mingling. Nobody needed a schedule. Ian waited until I had served myself before taking the potatoes. Then he looked at the chair beside me one more time, as if confirming where he was. "Here?" he asked softly. "Here," I said, and he sat beside me.